Octopath Traveler 2, 5 bosses stand above the rest in terms of difficulty. Galdera, who mixes high damage output with complicated mechanics, and the 4 extra battles, unlocked after defeating the final boss. These include 2 fights against the Travelers from the first game, which have countless ways to kill you, and all revive at full health when defeated. True Vide, where destroying 1 tentacle causes it to explode for massive damage, and there's 4 of them. And finally, True Vide the Wicked, who starts out the fight by disabling all your divine skills, clears your buffs frequently, hits insanely hard, and has 1.8 million HP. In this video, I'll be defeating all of these fights from a new game as fast as possible, and I'll be explaining how I did it. Also, there's a strategy used in some speedruns that involves summoning Alrond on the Foreign Assassins fight, multiply XP by 100, and get to level 82 instantly. To make this run more interesting, I decided to ban that, and will be gaining my levels just as you would in a normal playthrough. So to begin, I'm going to choose Throne as my starting character, and in case you aren't too familiar with this game, I'm going to explain a little bit of the battle system. So the 2 main mechanics in this game are breaking and boosting. So in this, look under the enemy's health bar and you'll see the type of weaknesses it has, and when you hit an enemy for the weakness, it'll break them, which will make them lose their turn, and they take double damage. So in that fight, I broke the enemies with my basic attacks, and then I dealt all my damage and killed them. So the other mechanic, which I'll explain before I get into the second fight, is boosting. Basically, boosting lets you make your attacks more powerful, or hit more times. So if you look in the top right during this next fight, there is going to be these orange orbs under each of my characters. Also, right now I have 2 kind of temporary party members. You won't be seeing them again after this fight. So, you look at the that is my boost points, and you can use up to 3 of them at a time.
Ready?
So here, I'm breaking all 3 of them, or breaking and or weakening these 3 enemies. And then I'm using my boost points to do somewhat powerful attacks. And take advantage of boosting and breaking is a key part of playing this game in general, not even just speedrunning. So now that I'm done the bare minimum of, the intro fights, each character's first chapter starts differently, of course, but that's how Throne starts. But now that I'm done the intro fights, the game's going to kind of, show off some story stuff. I'm going to skip all the cutscenes, and after that, it'll kind of get into tutorialing some more mechanics. So I'll kind of just explain the general structure of the game. Basically, there's 8 characters in the game. Each of them has their own story, and for this run, I will be needing to complete all of the main story, so I'll be needing to complete all of the 8 character stories, with, I guess, a slight exception, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So now we're getting introduced to path actions. So each character in this game has 2 path actions, or basically ways that they can interact with NPCs. So in Throne's case, she's a thief, so her day path action is steal. So obviously it's very useful in a speedrun, and I'm immediately putting that to use. So I steal an item from the story, and now I'm going to grab soul stones. Soul stones are this game's damaging consumable, and they'll deal a fixed amount of a certain element of damage when you use them. So I'm stealing, there's 3 sizes of them, but right now I only have access to the small ones. The small ones will deal 200 fixed damage. I also went and bought an earring there, but that'll be useful later. So now the game's going to switch to night, and I'm going to introduce my other path action, which is ambush. Throne's night path action, basically if she's of the correct level, if she's of high enough level, she could knock out an NPC. So now I'm getting another battle. In this case, instead of kill them, I can just break them and run away, because when you run away from enemies, when you've broken an enemy, your flee rate is 100%. So, the other thing you might have noticed in that fight is that Throne's passive basically gives you an elemental attack speed buff at night, so about 3 turns. So I'm taking advantage of this in this first boss here. So I'm using my dark skill, and basically using that to get some chip damage in. Then I'm boosted on the last turn of the buff. So now I don't have my buffs, I'm going to switch over to my soul stones, which, since they're fixed damage, they don't affect the buffs. So I'm double damage, and the soul stone then did 400 instead of 200. So here I get that. Actually, no, here I actually get good turn. So I burn up Soulstone. It does 30% more damage because it's weakness. Break the boss with my sword attacks. Use Threne's latent power, which I'll play a little bit later. And that gets me 2 turns, and now I can just throw more Soulstones and then kill this. And that is the very first boss of the run. So now is a good time to explain a bit more about what latent powers are. Basically, each character in the game has their own unique latent power, and you fill up your latent power gauge by either breaking the main 2 ways you can do it are by breaking enemies and by taking damage. So with these first 2 encounters I run into, I'm going to want to break them, not only because it guarantees that I can run away from them, but also because it fills latent power, and I'll need Threne's latent power later. Threne's latent power gives her 2 turns. It just gives her a second turn, and obviously that is extremely strong. It's, in my opinion, the strongest latent power in the game. So in the run, it's going to be pretty useful through basically the entirety of the run used. So now I'm kind of exploring. This game is a fast travel system, so the reason I went to that screen and left is simply because it allows me to fast travel here. So here's actually a really bad encounter, because since there's 2 enemies, I can't break both of them at a time because I'm only one character. So I basically have to just try and flee over and over until I can succeed. So fortunately, I got it quickly there. If I was unlucky, I might even die to those 2 rats, and that would have been a reset. So that's fun. Also, you might notice I'm doing a bit of walking in addition to running. So running is obviously faster, but it also has a higher encounter rate. So by walking like this, I can avoid getting an encounter. So this early stage of the run is basically I'm trying to get a skill called Evasive Maneuvers. And Evasive Maneuvers is on Scholar, which is what Oswald, this guy, is. So basically, the majority of most Octopath runs will just immediately go and pick up Oswald as soon as possible for access to Evasive Maneuvers. But of course, just having the character isn't enough. So I also need some money, which fortunately Oswald can help me get too. So his knight action is Mug, which lets him beat people up and take their money. Or take their items. In this case, this guy's... So I use a fire spell to break him, boost a fire spell, or use an ice spell to break him, boost my other spell, boost a spell to kill him, and now I can go grab a little bit more money in this chest, and now I'm going to be heading to the Black Market. The Black Market is this area outside this town, and every night there is a different... You can switch from night to day, and there's a different set of NPC vendors. So in this case, I want the clerics, which are a 15% chance. So I just reset over. I just reset to night and day over and over until I get them. I think I get them pretty quickly here. Yeah, here are the clerics. So I'm going to sell all the money items that I just picked up, including the one from that chest. And I'm going to buy some more soul stones. So in addition to those small soul stones, I'm also able to buy medium soul stones here. Instead of doing 200 damage, the medium soul stones will deal 1,100 damage, which is pretty good. In fact, it's enough to basically kill an encounter in an area that's a fair bit higher level than I currently am, which is exactly what I can do. So the way support skills work, like Evasive Maneuvers, is that as you learn more skills in a job, you unlock these equipable support skills, and you can equip them. Evasive Maneuvers is the first one on the Scholar, which means I need 2 Scholars. I need to learn 2 additional Scholar skills to unlock it. So I need a total of 130 JP for that. So on this screen, which is level 18, right now I'm like level 5, I think. So here I can just throw a Soulstone, which is enough to defeat that encounter. And that gets me around 60 JP, which is perfect. And I'm doing a safety save here, which, as you'll see quickly, I will actually have to use that safety save. So, basically, one thing about being in an area you're really underleveled for is that you get caught by surprise by the enemies. And that happens when you are very likely to just die. And that is why it is safety save. If I'm not on good pace, I probably wouldn't do that safety save, but since I had a pretty fast black market, I decided to safety save there, which helped me a lot.
Let's play.
So, here, to get evasive maneuvers, you need 2 encounters in this area with 3 enemies or more. The first encounter you find in the area always has 3 enemies, which means I'll always have enough. So here I'm just going to learn some skills. And that'll unlock evasive maneuvers, so I can equip that, and now I get way fewer encounters, which is insanely useful for a speedrun. So here I can basically just make it all the way to the town close by without needing to worry about getting attacked by enemies, which is very, very useful. So now that I have evasive maneuvers, I can start going and getting some items. So the first thing I'm going to be picking up, items and characters, but the first thing I'm going to go pick up is an item called the JP Augmenter. So the JP Augmenter is in a dungeon that is level 48, which I am extremely under level for. Also, as an aside, that snail is the best encounter I can actually find here, and I found it 3 times here. The reason I think it's the best one is because it's the only encounter here that Oswald can actually break with his staff. Anyway, that aside. Now I'm in the Cavern of Ways, which is level 48 area, and I'm going to do a safety save here. Technically speaking, you can walk here from the entrance all the way to the chest, but it's a bit inconsistent, and since I was on good pace, I decided to just play it safe and take the safety save. So, by saving the game, I'm resetting my step counter. So, basically, to get encounters, there's a step system. It's somewhat random, like it's not always consistent, but by saving quitting there, I think I have a 90% at least chance of making it to that chest without getting attacked by enemies, which is very good. Obviously, because, it's level 48 area, I'd have no way of killing the enemies even if they didn't surprise me, which is good. And what the JP Augmenter does is it gives me 50% more JP to the entire party if I have it equipped on someone. So I equipped it on Throne, so that means any encounters I kill will give me 50% JP. And seeing as Throne is my starting character, and you cannot swap out your starting character out of the party until you've beaten their story, that means I'm going to be able to leverage that 50% JP for a good amount of the run. Or basically, I can also, unequip it and re-equip it, so I can leverage it for as much as I need it to, which is going to be a lot. Also, I'm walking here to basically guarantee I get to this town without an encounter. Here we're going to pick up my 3rd character. This is Agnia. Usually, most longer Octopath runs don't actually pick up Agnia here, and instead just kind of visit the town and leave. But this run actually does want to visit Agnia, or pick up Agnia, mainly because of her Entreat action. Entreat is a bit like Steel, except it has a hard level requirement. It has a level requirement, and also these guys, this encounter here, I know that Oswald can actually break all of them by hitting them with a fire attack, but since Oswald wasn't first, I just decided to YOLO flee, and it worked, so whatever. Anyway, so Agnia's Entreat, if she is of the prerequisite level to entreat an item, she can basically just ask an NPC nicely to give her items, which is obviously getting items really useful to run. So picking up Agnia early for some key, there's basically 3 key entreats I want to do, and picking up Agnia early lets me do that. Also, in case you couldn't already tell, this commentary is not scripted, so if there's stuff I missed, or mistakes I make, my bad, sorry. But I'll do my best. So, now we're going to pick up our 4th character, which is Particio. He is a merchant. He can buy things from NPCs, but the main reason we want him is because Merchant is broken. Merchant will be a very, very useful early game job for this run. Honestly, it'll be a really useful job for the entire run, but Particio will be very, very useful for early game. So now I'm going to walk here to not get an encounter, and basically I'm kind of just exploring the low-level areas, which I can navigate relatively easily, because, even though at this point the areas are level 8, and I'm not really that high yet, it's still pretty safe to be in these areas, which is nice. So even if I do get an encounter here, it's not really going to pose much threat to me, other than losing me time. So that's why I work. Anyway, I buy some Bluster Bloom there, which will be useful about, I'd say, an hour from now, if not a bit more.
What?
I'd say I'd say about an hour from now. Anyway, to recruit my next character, I need to fight these guys, which is why I bought an Ice Soul Stone, so I can throw one there, and there you go. Easy win. So this character is Hikari. He's going to be really useful for the run, but I'm not actually going to add him to the party just yet, because I need the rest of the party. Can't swap Throne, I can't swap her out, and she has my JP Augmenter on. Oswald has my evasive maneuvers. I need Agnia to be of a decent level for Entreat, so I keep her on. And Particio is a merchant, and I need JP on him because merchant is broken. So now on this screen here, I'm going to want to break the encounter and run away from it. Technically I could just YOLO run, but this is also the best encounter I can get here, which is wonderful.
Ready?
But most of the encounters aren't actually too bad to break if you know their weaknesses, which, as I've run this, I have gotten a better idea of what the enemies are weak to, which is good. At least for the early game. Like, I'm pretty sure in this run, though, that you will see some moments of me just floundering around thinking, like, oh, surely they're weak to this, and they're just not. I might be thinking of it though. Anyway, so now I'm in another area that's pretty... it's a level... bit higher level. So I'm gonna kill enemies here by, throwing some soul stones. And you might be wondering why I'm switching to night for these battles. Because, sure, I get free buffs from Throne, but those buffs don't actually affect my soul stones. But the encounters at night in this area drop more JP and are easier to kill with the soul stones that I have. Also, here I don't know what this was. This was just me forgetting how to play the game entirely. I just forgot where my change to night button is. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, these encounters can occasionally surprise you a decent amount of the time, and I'm glad they didn't, because that would have lost me a fair bit. But I did get surprised. I still did get surprised a fair bit in this run, but that'll come a little later. So now I'm going to start a story chapter, mainly because if you say no to starting a story chapter, it's really slow. It's usually pretty slow to then restart the chapter. So I just start the chapter, and now here I'm going to go down and use Throne Steel action to get a large Wind Soul Stone. So, the large Soul Stone has a base damage of 2,700, which is quite a bit. More than double the medium Soul Stone, so it's gonna have its time. I'll say that. So now I'm gonna get my 6th character, Casti. She will also be very, very useful in this run, but I will also not be adding her to the party. Yet, that is. So now here I'm going to buy my 2nd earring, and basically this entire early game has been structured around getting certain items. Also, here I say no to starting this chapter because I have a convenient time to restart it later. Also, I'm going to swap Agni out of the party, which is why I don't want to, because then that would pause the chapter anyway. So here, this encounter can be really annoying, this enemy encounter.
Let's play.
But I get a pretty... these are guys I actually do want to break, which is good. But on the subject of what I've been doing, basically I've been getting items that I need. Actually, I'll get to it. 1 second. I'll get to it a few seconds later when it actually becomes relevant. Because right here, I need to fight this guy for a quest. This is one of the quests to unlock Galdera. And this is the only reason I learn HP Thief.
So it goes.
I need it to defeat that guy, and HP Thief will never be used again. So the reason I've been getting went to Conning Creek for the Rainbow Glass Bottle, I bought some Soul Stones, and those 2 earrings is to unlock skills for the Inventor job. So the Inventor job is an advanced job, which means it's not one of the 8 starting jobs that a characters have. And some of the advanced jobs have unique ways of unlocking skills, and Inventor is one of them. And the way you unlock skills for Inventor is you craft them. You give materials, and then this guy will craft you skills. So I want to unlock 2 of these skills, the Critical Scope and Elemental Bomb Bottle, Both of those are very good skills, don't get me wrong, but that is not the main reason I go for them. The main reason I want them is because it unlocks the best support skill in the game, which is a step ahead. I'm not equipping it just yet, but when I equip it, I will get you well up to speed on what it does, because it is the reason this run works. But now I'm just going to kind of explore around and unlock new towns. Specifically, this next town I'm going to, Clockbank, is going to be where Partitio's second chapter takes place. Alright, speaking of chapters, you might notice that the other characters I picked up didn't actually do their chapter 1. That's a mechanic in this game. You can skip the first chapter for characters that you don't start with, which is pretty useful. Like, of course, you can choose to do them, and on a normal playthrough, I'd highly recommend doing that, but for a repeat playthrough or a speedrun, it's much faster to just say no to starting the chapter, and just doing the chapter 1 of your starting character. But yeah, Partitio's chapter 2 will be the first story chapter that I'll be completing after Throne's chapter 1. And the main reason for that is because this chapter has a pretty good way of getting me a sizable amount of money. And obviously money is very useful. And it's going to kind of work towards getting all the items that I need to start. So just kind of steamrolling through the game. So here I'm going to be turning in this item I need for the story, and then at this point, this is a frequent concept in Octopath runs, which is basically, normally this chapter would require me to backtrack to go grab an NPC, but instead of doing the backtrack, I'm going to instead do something else. In this case, I go get a thief job, and this is the main reason I'm taking is in treat. That little boy in the Thieves Guild had stolen some pretty powerful items and doesn't really understand how much they're worth, so he'll basically just give them to you for free, which is very cool world building, and also really nice in the run, because those items sell for like 30k. And speaking of selling, I can hire someone with Partitio, and Partitio's passive ability basically makes it so that I get a special ability based on the NPC I have hired. In this case, this NPC lets me get 25% more money when I sell items. So I'm just progressing through the story, and then now I will swap Hikari back into the party because I don't need to use Igni as a treat for the next while. So now this is our party, and now I can finally equip Step Ahead because it's that good. So what a Step Ahead does is it basically, there's a bonus round at the start of the battle, and a Step Ahead just gives every character in the party that has it equipped, it gives you a turn in that bonus round. So as you see there, all of my characters just got a free turn at the beginning of the battle. Also, this is really unlucky because I'm pretty reasonably leveled for this area, and I failed to flee twice, which kind of sucks. And considering it's 5 enemies, it takes a while to go to the next turn to try and flee again. And now, if I'm remembering correctly, because this is a post-commentary, by the way, in case you've been a little confused on some of my apparent clairvoyance, this is, I think, probably some of the worst part yet. Because these guys catch you by surprise, and this specific battle, catching you surprise is basically all of us just, yeah, you just got to die.
Not like this.
Because the way I defeat this battle is heavily reliant on my step ahead turn, and if the enemy surprises you, it just deletes your step ahead round and gives the enemy the surprise round, which obviously is not very good. So, second try the charm should be this time, right? Oh no, it actually is. That's nice. Anyway, so I will break this back guy, because this back enemy actually has enough HP that a soulstone will not... A soulstone just won't kill it. So I have to break it, which lets the soulstone do double damage and lets it kill it. Also, in case you're wondering the reason I bought specifically light soulstones, is also for these battles, because the moles have too much health to die to a soulstone, unless they're weak to the soul stone, and the only element they're weak to is light. So I buy light stones. Not sure, do I get surprised here too? Oh, I actually don't. Okay, that's good.
Here I am. I'm sorry. Bring it on.
So here I can break these guys again, break the back guy, throw soul stone, and that is most of my early game encounters that I'm using soul stones on. And now I will get the merchant job. And as I mentioned earlier, merchant is broken. And I mentioned earlier, again, another thing I mentioned earlier, that you can save and quit the game to reset your step counter. But another way you do that is by fighting someone. So I can have Hikari challenge that guy to immediately back out, and and now I can just get to this town. It's pretty nice. So now, after I've done my errands, I can finally go back to that. I now skip the backtracking and can go back to this town and complete the story. But before I do that, I need to buy those 2 soul stones, because soul stones are just really useful. There's more encounters that I'll have to kill, and soul stones were a great way to do that for the early game. And so I get that guy I need for the story, and at this point I'm just basically doing story stuff. Alright, another thing I haven't really mentioned yet is why Hikari's in the party. So the reason Hikari's in the party is because my main goal for the early game is there's an item I want that is only unlocked after completing Hikari's 2nd chapter. So I want him in the party so I can do that chapter soon. But I also need money to get that item, so I'm using this chapter.
All tidied up.
Anyway, I can throw a Thunder Soul Stone to defeat those guards. And there will be one more encounter that I fight here before the boss. And this boss is a minor amount of RNG, but I know it goes well this run. But speaking of RNG, I just got surprised with you guys. You guys aren't... The encounters you get here aren't really too dangerous in the sense that, you know, if you get surprised you'll end up dying. Just kind of waste your time. So I get a little bit of money from that chest. And now I'm gonna learn some skills. So I'm learning merchant skills on Particio, Oswald, and Throne. And I'm also giving Oswald the adventurer buff. So the reason I'm learning the merchant skills is for the, I also realized I screwed up the menu there, and I fix it right there. But anyway, so the reason I just learned merchant skills there is for a passive called Boost Start. And Boost Start is very, very good in the run, because it lets me start the battle with 2 boost points instead of 1. Which means I can full boost a skill on turn 2. So now this fight, I take advantage of the defend action to make sure I go first next turn. And now I can break the boss with spears and axes. And now here's the RNG, there's a 95% chance that collect works. And that's the way I get into this boss. Which is, you can just use the merchant skill collect, and for whatever reason that dog has 30 hit. Also, you blinked and you missed it, the boss is dead. So that is a skill called Hired Help, and it is why merchant is broken. So what Hired Help basically does is, instead of costing SP like other skills do, it costs money. And you basically summon, I guess, mercenaries to fight for you. And of course, that you can have, I guess not necessarily mercenaries, but you can summon people to fight for you, and depending on the amount of money you pay, you can get different amounts of people. Like, it's not RNG, you choose what kind of person you want. Each type of people has different, they have different attacks they use, the same attack every time. So that time I use the guards, which do a staff attack, which is pretty powerful for this early in the game, so I can just one-shot a boss with it. And the guards cost 7, which, for instantly killing a boss is a pretty good deal, if you ask me. Like, I literally got 7k from that one chest. Here I'm just gonna walk, and I'm heading on the way to Hikari's Chapter 2, but there is one more town I need to stop by first. This will be to pick up Temidix later. So now that I have a few more levels, I think I'm like level, if I were to guess, I'm probably like level 13, maybe 15? Somewhere in that range? Maybe I don't actually. Oh, here I actually surprise the enemy, and that's really nice, because when you surprise the enemy, you can run away for free. That you just have an 100% chance. It's quite nice. But now I'm in a level 14 area, so even with Step Ahead giving me 2 chances to run away, I potentially could fail to run away from these enemies, and if that would happen, it's not great, but fortunately here I still am able to run away. Also, I just realized I have not mentioned the sub-job system, and that's, really important. So basically you can equip a second job, as you kind of seen me doing, so I've equipped Merchant on characters, and when you equip a sub-job, you can of course learn skills and or support skills from that job. When you have the job equipped, you can use the skills. It's a great way to add versatility to your characters and or get some items. And here I almost... Oh, I actually do fail twice. I don't remember how this goes. Does someone die? Yep, all of them dies. So... I'm considering breaking the enemies, but then I just do that. Fortunately, you start out with 2 olives of life, which you can use to revive party members, and... So, I mentioned earlier that Throne needs latent power, and if you die, you lose your latent power, so if Throne had lost her latent power, I would have had to sleep in an inn to refresh it, but thankfully it was Oswald that died, and I don't need his latent, so that's nice. Because resting in an inn is pretty slow. Generally, you want to possible. So now I'm finally starting Hikari's Chapter 2. And for whatever reason, this is like the same premise for a chapter as the Warriors Chapter 2 from Octopath 1, which is that it involves a fighting arena. Obviously, it's not the exact same story, but it's a fighting arena, so I have to fight a bunch of guys. And the way that I will defeat them all is via soulstones. Real original, same thing I've done for the last few. But this chapter will basically serve to just get rid of the rest of the soulstones I've picked up. And yeah. So I basically break that into its spear attacks, and then throw a soulstone at it. This next fight is actually the reason I picked up an ice soulstone way back at the black market, because one of the 3 enemies that I'm going to have to fight here is actually weak to ice and has enough HP that no other element will kill them. So here I just challenge these guys, throw the ice soulstone, and instantly win.
Prepare yourself. You're open. Good. There's no need for flattery. It'll rest on the sword.
So now there's two more of these challenge fights, and this is also a time, I guess, where I can talk about learned skills. So one of Hikari's passive ability is that whenever he defeats an NPC with his challenge path action, he'll learn a skill from it. Also, to defeat this guy, I just use a Thunder Soulstone to do some bit extra damage, break its sword attacks, and then throw another Soulstone to defeat him. On the subject of learned skills, when you defeat an NPC, you are able to learn a skill from them. Each NPC has a unique skill, and in this case, I actually want the skill from this NPC, which is Slowing Sweep. I will be learning a total of 3 skills in this run. Slowing Sweep is the first. And what Slowing Sweep effectively does is it's a spear attack that reduces the enemy's speed. And what reducing the enemy's speed has 2 main benefits, and you'll see the first one on this battle right here. If I get good turn order, I potentially am not using it, but I know in this case I get the bad turn order, so I use Slowing Sweep to push the enemy's turn back, and that gives me time to break it before he gets to do it.
Now it begins.
Of course, it's not the worst thing in the world if he were to attack me, but like, it still saves time, so it's nice. So of course, that's not just a challenge fight. There is also a boss fight. So that means another hired help. Because, yeah. So I'll debuff the enemy's defense with armor corrosive. Higher Help is a summon, and summons do not have damage. The only way you can increase the damage of summons is by applying debuffs to the enemy. So Armor Corrosive basically debuffs the enemy's defense, which makes them take 50% more damage from all physical attacks, which is very, very useful. And now, finally, the purpose of doing Hikari's Chapter 2 is there is a quest down here called Tourney Champion, and to complete the quest, I need to knock this guy out. And when I complete the quest, I then enter into this fight as an NPC called Urans. This fight is normally pretty difficult, but of course I have higher help, so I can just win it instantly. That's probably intended to be done around like level 40 or so, but higher help just does it immediately, and that gets me an item called the Champion's Belt, which is very, very useful. Also there I got really lucky on the turn order. If I didn't get lucky, I would have had to use Throne's Latent there. Which is why I needed Throne's Latent in the first place. So notably, that since I haven't used Throne's Latent, I didn't have to use my to refill it.
No.
So now that I have the Champion's Belt, I can take this guy and pick up Temenos. So I guess I'll explain what the Champion's Belt does at this point. Actually, real quick, I'm picking up Temenos. I'll explain what Temenos does first. So Temenos is very useful in speedruns because his ability is like Throne's, where it automatically triggers at the start of the battle at night. Only instead of buffing my party, instead debuffs all the enemies. It debuffs defense, elemental defense, and it blinds them. Specifically it's basically a free armor corrosive, which is really useful. And I'll be putting that immediately to use on this next fight here as a mini-boss of sorts. Also, pick up a Fire Soulstone from that chest, because I still need a little bit more soul. I still need 3 more Soulstones for some other stuff I'll be doing soon.
Ready when you are.
So on this fight here, Temenos gets a free debuff, and I can just throw higher health.
Let's get to work.
I promise you, there will be more interesting boss fights later. It's just Hired Help is really good at defeating early game bosses. So, obviously I want to do that, because that also gets me JP, which I can use to learn more skills and become more powerful, and also, I hate that I literally changed time and there's an NPC right in front of me that just, appeared. How rude of them. So now here, I'm skipping some backtracking, so I basically got to a point of Oswald's story where I needed to backtrack. So I can then fast travel over here and complete this Throne chapter that I started all the way earlier in the run. As I mentioned earlier, that's a pretty common thing in Octopath runs. Basically, just if there's backtracking, you want to skip it by fast traveling somewhere else, and if you have something else to do. And that's kind of one of the big ways that speedruns are routed. So like once you've done like kind of the macro routing, like what you need to get, where you need to get it, it's kind of like for ordering, you kind of want to order things in such a way where you don't have to backtrack as much, obviously. I'll get into more, obviously there'll be more downtime for me to talk about stuff later, so I'll get into more of like how I routed this, because I think it's cool. But now at this stage, before this boss, this area here has an encounter that is guaranteed. So some areas, the first encounter is guaranteed. In this case, it's these 3 guards. So what I can do to these 3 guards is I can use a Soulstone to weaken them. I can break them to ensure they don't get any actions in. And then I can use the Thief's Steal skill to steal items. Usually, most enemies don't have really notable items, but these guards are a major exception to that. They have Forbidden Elixirs, which are an endgame consumable, and these guards are like basically the only way of getting them, aside from one specific NPC that you can steal off of. So those will be useful throughout the run.
What a waste of time.
So now here's another boss, and This is another boss I'm going for a collect.
What?
This one actually, so if I were to fail the collect here, I had a backup strat. But I didn't fail the collect, which is good.
Let's get to work.
And here's the introduction of Beastlings. Beastlings are basically stronger guards that will also always hit weaknesses. Like, they'll always deplete shield points even when they don't hit a weakness, which is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And that part will come up later. But for early game, the main reason Beastlings get used is just because they hit pretty hard. So now we're doing Oswald's Chapter 4. And in this chapter, I'm going to pick up some more supplies. First, I'm going to grab 2 more soul stones, which I think are the last medium soul stones I'll be picking up in the run. And then I'll be grabbing an Herb of Serenity. I had grabbed one of these after I picked up Temenos, but these are basically items that Cassidy can use with her Soothe path action, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I kind of glossed over the Champion's Belt and what that actually does, so I'll explain that now. Actually, I'll mention right here just that right now Oswald has to do some path actions, and ideally you don't want him to fail too many times. You have an 80%, a 60%, and a 72%, and you don't want him to fail 5 total times. You lose a fair chunk of time if that ended up happening. Anyway, I did fail there once. Anyway, so the Champion's Belt basically gives plus 100 on the character who's equipped it, in this case Throne. It gives 100 physical attack and 100 critical, which are both fantastic, and it makes it so that enemies cannot surprise you, which is huge. It basically lets me go into areas underleveled and just do fine. Also, there I've used a Travel Banter. Travel Banter is like a little, character moment, 2 characters chat together. Before that, I just gotta defeat these guys with their help.
Ready.
Anyway, the Travel Banter is usually, cute little character moments. You're wondering, why am I viewing that in a speedrun?
And so
Well,
it goes.
just like fighting an NPC, it also resets your step. And here for the next boss, I need step ahead on all my characters, so I'll be fighting the next boss. So I'll be doing that in another 3 minutes. So for this boss,
What to do?
I will use Tornado's Spear attack it, Oswald to hit with staff, and I'll set up critical skill. This is Inventor skill, which makes it so that all my attacks will crit, which lets higher help deal almost damage cap. So there's a damage cap of 10 to 8. Higher health hits that. I can use guards for a little bit more damage, and then I just need a little bit more, so I use Soul Stone.
I've gained valuable insights.
And that is I think the first, it's the first time I use Critical Scope, but I won't use it again in quite a bit actually, because it's just not needed for most of the next fights. But now, here is a major divergence from if you've watched an all extra battles run, for example, or an any percent run. Usually you don't go here to get Ochette right now. Also, right here, this is a shadow battle. It's related to the
Time to
story.
clean up the filth.
Interestingly, in speedruns, they will always occur in the same
do?
same spot, so I know what I'll always get from here. Also, I learned cleric skills on Portitio to get the Evil Ward passive. As you might see, throughout the run, most of the reason I learn job skills is to get specific passives. So in this case, I get Evil Ward. Evil Ward is incredibly powerful because it basically lets me just... It greatly increases my odds of fleeing from enemies, to the point where these low mid-level areas, I can just do it guaranteed, which is huge. And even in high-level areas, think level 45, I still have a very good chance of actually just running away, which is very useful for exploration. So here I'm going to pick up Ochette. She is the hunter, and she's the last character in the run. So she has 2 animal companions, and for this run, only Mahina works. We'll get into why later. Also, I need to steal a book called Dispatches from Beasting Island from that NPC right there. That is needed for a quest to unlock the Galdera fight. Also, I mentioned during the intro, this category is mainly to, you want to do the you want to do Galdera, and you want to do all the extra battles. So, that basically means I need to do the story to unlock the extra battles, and I want to do the prerequisite quests for the Galdera fight. One thing about the Galdera fight that influences the routing of this run, after you defeat him, you get an item which makes it so that you do not get encounters anymore. So basically, this category is routed to do the Galdera fight as early as feasibly possible. But with that aside over, which considering, it's one of the hardest bosses in the game, it's a tall order, but I make it work. But anyway, the reason I pick up Ochette super early is because I mentioned earlier how some areas make it so that the first encounter is always the same thing, and one important part of that is that a lot of the areas that are like that are low level, and in this case, these areas will actually increase in level as I complete more story. So this is the last point in the run where I can get guaranteed encounters in some of these low areas, which is useful, because if I know what the encounter is going to be, I can plan more easily on which encounters I actually want to capture, because Ochette can capture monsters. So I pick up Ochette, and I'm actually going to be capturing a monster at this fight that I'm going to get into right here. There's two main benefits of capturing monsters. You can summon them into battle, and you can turn them into food items, which are useful in battle. Anyway, so I'm going to weaken the... So the enemy I want is one of those two birds in the back. So I'm going to hit him with the Soul Stone, hit him with HP Thief, and then capture. And then I'm going to try to run away. And I did actually run away, which is good. So that is the first beast I'm going to be capturing. I will be capturing a total of 4 non-required beasts. There are beasts that are required to be captured for the story, but there will be 4 beasts that I'll be capturing that aren't required. So that was the first. So 3 of them will kind of be captured in this early Ochette segment. So the second one is right here, this Shaggy Aurochs. Here it's a lot more convenient to capture it. I don't need to do a precise setup to get it enough to capture. I can just hit the Soul Stone it's not weak to, and then just capture it. So just the way the capture mechanic works is there's a bunch of factors that can influence capture chance, but the easiest way to get a guaranteed capture is to just get the monster to 25% health or lower, or to below 25% health. Also, this area is level 45, and as I mentioned, I hopefully somewhat reliably, only I get really bad luck. Throne surviving that hit miraculously is like the only reason I didn't lose a ton of time there. But Ochette did die, so I do have to revive her. But all things considered, that's probably the best way that could have gone, considering I failed fleeing twice. Normally, you just get a successful flee and it works fine. Anyway, that Shaggy Aurochs monster I captured, I just turned it into jerky. The jerky item I get will come up with. Well, I guess I'll explain what it does. Basically, it heals the target. It's a single target item. It heals the target, and it gives them a physical attack boost, which will be useful in 2 fights in particular. And considering I get 2 jerkies, it's perfect. Also, Throne is still on the verge of death. I think she will be for a decent while. But thankfully, since I have Evil Ward and I'll be going through some pretty low-level areas, it's not really that big of a deal.
Howdy there, friend.
Not bad.
Also, the level 45 area, the combination of Evil Ward, Champion's Belt, and a Step Ahead is really what enables just being able to go through those level 45 areas with such consistency. Also, speaking of monsters captured, this is the final one. I get the first RNG here, having the check first. You can hit the Soul Stone. And here I'm defending, it's attacking, because I'm just a little paranoid that if I attack that thing, I'll kill it, because I think it's really low. I think I've accidentally killed it before, so I'm glad I didn't attack it and accidentally killed it. Anyway, But yeah, the combo of Evil Ward, Step Ahead, and Champion's Belt makes you pretty reliably able to just waltz in through a level 45 encounter, level 45 area. Though of course I say that and I almost died because I somehow failed to flee twice. Also, I just picked up the Scholar job, and what I've basically just done with Scholar, the reason I want to get Scholar is so basically just make it so that I don't have to have Oswald in the party at all times, because Oswald does get his time to shine in this run, but this is still not a great run to show off Oswald's strengths. So I will be benching Oswald, and he will be coming back on the Galdera fight, which won't be in like almost 2 hours from now. So see ya, Oswald, you were great. Kinda, I mean, you were kinda just an evasive maneuvers guy, but hey, that's still really useful. So now Particio will be our evasive maneuvers guy. And there we just completed a quest. Earlier on we got a pickaxe item, which let us complete that quest right there. And also we swapped in Casti and Agnia into the party. Specifically, I need those characters in the party for the next little kind of exploration segment I'll be doing. And because I have those two characters in specific, it is also a reason why I needed to switch Particio to Thief. Because, notably, I don't have Temenos in the party, so I can't just get a free defense debuff for existing. I have to apply my armor corrosive manually. And that will actually be a pretty notable point for most of the run. Because for a lot of the run, for various reasons, I just don't have the party space to put Temenos. To have Temenos in. He's of course a fantastic character to have in for speedruns, but I just can't fit him in, which is unfortunate. And I'll of course get into why later. Also, another disadvantage not having Temenos here, Temenos has a travel banter in this part, so you could travel ban and skip the encounter here, but I have to just take the encounter and run away.
Now to clean up the
But the advantage, at least, is it's pretty consistent because I have a merchant. Both of my characters have both the merchant and thief charms equipped, so no matter what turn order I get, I can just armor corrosive, hired help, instantly win. And the reason I want two characters to have step ahead in the first place is generally when you're using Evil Ward, you want at least two characters with step ahead. Because the first character can run away, can defend, and then the second character can run away. And that gives you 2 guaranteed chances at running away from every encounter you get. Which is basically always enough, which is usually always enough to successfully run away from an encounter.
Life is too precious to risk.
So now that these areas have gotten a little bit higher level, usually I'd say it's probably a 95% chance, maybe a 90% chance that I successfully flee here. I'm thinking 95 at least. It's pretty rare that I fail to flee here, but it can happen. Maybe just 90, I don't know. Anyway, this is the reason I want to take me in the party, at least the main one, and that is to acquire the Windy Refrain skill. Windy Refrain is going to be extremely, extremely useful for exactly one boss. You might be thinking, if you just need it for one boss, why are you taking a 40-plus second detour to get the skill? And the answer is just, it is so useful on that one boss, there's just not really a feasible way to skip it. Notably, in the All Extra Battles category, you actually can skip it, but since I will not have nearly as many tools as you would have in that category, since, I banned Alrond, I will not have the tools that I will not quite have enough damage to be able to do the Windy Refrain skip, so I will have to use Windy Refrain. And that is one of the many ways that this this run will have to handle things differently from a typical any percent or all extra battles speedrun. Here's another level 45 area. And here I also fail to flee twice. And I don't think I got out of this alive. Actually, no, never mind, I do. That's actually crazy. Though the downside, the unfortunate downside here, is that when there were some encounters earlier that I specifically used Portitio to break. And that was to fill his latent power, because he needs it for later. And since he died, all that progress has been undone, and I will need to do a backup strat to refill his latent later, which is basically just go to an inn somewhere. So, yeah. Unfortunate that happened. But now I'm in Timberrain, and this is another part that is different from extra battles. I just bought an Ancient Circlet to Shio. Ancient Circlet is a helmet that gives the second most elemental attack of any helmet in the game. And, normally in an extra battles run, you would buy one in Nameless Village. But seeing as this run will actually do the Galdera fight before going to Nameless Village, I kinda need that Ancient Circlet earlier, so I have to buy one there, which makes the money routing a little bit more awkward, but it worked out. And the reason I needed Casti to go to Timberrain is because I used the Soothe Path action to pick up the Rusty chest. Soothe is Casti's Night Path action, and similar to Ambush, it lets you knock out an NPC. Though unlike Ambush, instead of it requiring a level requirement, it instead requires these different types of herbs. Namely, Herbs of Serenity or Slumber Sage. So I've been picking up Herbs of Serenity so I can use them with Serenity. So that NPC I knocked out, since it was a very high level NPC, it took 2 Herbs of Serenity. So now I'm going to go to the town of Gravo. And in this town, there's another NPC I can use Soothe to knock out, and this will let me unlock the Arms Master job. This is kind of like, another advanced job, and it's basically the ultimate physical job, quote-unquote. At least in theory. But in this run, we're using the job in a rather unconventional way. Because basically the way the job works is that there are these special weapons that you need to use the skills for the job. And the thing about these special weapons is they sell for 100,000, which is an insane amount of money. So, as you might have noticed, I sold the Warlord Spear. Because, well, it does have pretty good stats for a spear. I don't really need a spear, and I'd much rather have $100,000. And the reason I'd want $100,000 is because that's conveniently how much a boat costs. So I'm gonna buy a boat with my 100,000. Also, here's me forgetting that you actually need to use a path action to buy the boat, and not just talk to the NPC. Anyway. You can customize your boat color, and I'm pretty sure I actually do it here, because I do, because I was like, you know what? I might as well just have fun with it. It's faster to just say no and, you know, have an unpainted boat, but, you know, sometimes it's correct to lose a bit of time to look cool. You know? You get me? Anyway, with my new boat, I can sail to Rock Island, which has another set of encounters that can potentially kill me. And this time, I do not get insanely unlucky, and actually somehow and am actually able to flee. This is, you might be thinking like, oh, the RNG part of like fleeing from encounters seems like, you know, really annoying. And this run is not representative of the average run. Like, I'm just getting profoundly unlucky. Though, I'm getting both unlucky and lucky, because usually when you fail, you also die. I just happened to fail twice and then not die. Also, I used more Herbs of Serenity to knock that guy out. And, there's a ton of loot in there. And there's also $40,000, which is very useful, but there is a ton of loot. I'll kind of get into what all of that loot does later when I actually need to use it, but yeah. So now that I've done everything I needed to do, I can swap her out for Hikari, and this will kind of be the main party of sorts for the run. So I'll kind of get into why it is the main party. So Throne is the starting character. She gives buffs at night. She's kind of like an all... For this run, she'll kind of be an all-purpose Swiss Army knife as support character. Free buffs, armor corrosive, that sort of stuff. Plus, she'll have stuff like JP Augmenter and that kind of thing. Hikari will be our main damage dealer for the run, but I won't quite say how he'll be doing that yet, but will be our main damage dealer for the run. Cassie is mainly here because I need her for damage much later on in the run, and seeing as I need her for damage, I want her to be as high level as possible, so she's got to hang around in the party for as long as basically as much as I feasibly can. And then Particio is here. He's the odd one out because he is not a permanent party member. Or, he's effectively not a permanent party member. The other three are mostly permanent. For the rest, we'll be here for most of the run. The rest of the run. But Particio is just kind of here because I need JP. Or I need him to get JP. Also, I guess he's a merchant, and that's useful too. But, right, and buying things is also, useful, as you might understand. But basically, I won't have this party for the entire run, but I'll have this for a good portion of the game. Also, getting an encounter here is pretty unlucky, so that kind of sucks. Also, right, no, another good reason to have Particio on is because he is the guy who has evasive maneuvers on, and Evil Ward. So, he is doing something. Also, actually, I won't mention that. So, basically, the reason I'm doing the story chapters I'm doing is mostly just, I want JP. Mostly on Throne here, but my other characters are nice too. So this next fight will, right, I haven't really mentioned Hired Help Veterans yet, but they cost twice as much as Beastlings, but they also do, like, a bit more damage. Not that much, but they harder. So in this boss, I can't quite get away with Beastlings, so I have to dump 30k and use Veterans.
I take what I want.
And if I remember correctly, that's actually the second to last use of Veterans in this run. Though, a fun fact of this run is that every single hired help type gets used at least once. Which, to my knowledge, is the only speedrun category that does that, which is pretty cool. I didn't plan for it, but that's just kind of how it worked out in the end. So, that's neat. I'll make sure to point them out when they come up. So, right now I've used Mercenaries to break the one guy. And here I'm just going to steal a nut. And at this point, I guess I'll explain what nuts are. Nuts are basically permanent stat boosts, and while each nut doesn't really give that many stats, they add up. So I'm going to be getting a fair few nuts over the course of this run. I also just picked up the Warrior subjob, which will be useful for the mid and the late game of this run. And here is the last high-level area I'll be going into early game. Surely this one actually goes well for once, right?
You are a poison that must be purged.
Oh wait. So I try to flee. Try to flee a second time, and of course it doesn't work, because why would it? I, for whatever reason, just cannot get good luck, and I just get party wiped. Which, is the second game over in this run, and if I remember correctly, it is also the last. This game has a very generous autosave system too, so even if you do game over, it's not too bad. This run in general actually doesn't have too much RNG, which is pretty nice. Makes it not too difficult to get into. Sure, it's pretty long, but if you follow along with the route, I kind of got into speedrunning this game kind of by following through the routes at a slow pace. And this run, I'd say, is pretty good for that, if that's your kind of thing. Anyway, so, here I'm going to pick up the XP augmenter, which is like the JP augmenter, but for XP. Which, wow. Also, oh wait, no, I have mentioned that you use JP to learn skills. Anyway, so he gets mad at me for selling the weapon, but he clearly hasn't learned his lesson, because he's going to give me a third weapon, the Dancer's Blade. Surely I won't sell this one immediately, right? Right? Of course I would. See you, Dancer's Blade. But notably, I'm actually keeping the Conqueror's Sword around. This was kind of an awkward part about routing this run. Usually you would sell the Conqueror's Sword to buy the boat, and then keep around the Dancer's Blade. But in this case, I actually need the Conqueror's Sword, because it's a half-decent sword for Hikari to use. So I'm actually keeping it around. For a bit, at least. I'll eventually sell it, but it will get a fitting amount of use, I think. And speaking of the Conqueror's Sword, here's where I'm going to actually equip it. So I'm going to give Hikari Conqueror's Sword, I'm going to give Casti the XP augmenter, and I'm going to switch my champion's belt from Throne to Hikari. Because, as I mentioned, Hikari will be my main damage dealer, and as you probably might expect, him being a warrior, he's going to want physical attack, so I'm giving him the champion's belt. Also, just listen to this. One of the best songs in the game. It's also, I think, the only character theme that plays for an extended period of time during this run. So now that that's done, I will be doing the second to last, but the last story boss that I'll be fighting with, that'll be using hired help as my only source of damage on. And the main reason I'm doing this fight is just because it drops a lot of JP. So this fight is somewhat unique in that the boss is untargetable until you destroy the steam engine. So the way I'm going to fight this boss is I'm going to defend with Hikari, so he goes first next turn, break my defeat the steam engine, repair his baselines. And then I will listen to a cutscene, and then actually defeat the boss, breaking him for attacks, and then using hired help veterans to kill.
All tidied up.
Oh wait, did I lie? I think I was gonna say it was. I think I said Sandline was the second to last use of hired help veterans. I lied. I forgot about that one. But that is the second to last use. But now we'll be visiting Timbering real quick. This is a little bit of an awkward trip. Also, I'll just be learning some skills here quick. So I just learned the Life in the Shadows passive, and I gave Hikari Merchant. So I'm going to equip Life in the Shadows, and I'm going to equip Peak Performance on Hikari. So I'll explain what both of those do. I'll explain what Life in the Shadows does, actually, because that's the one that's relevant. Also, I'm going to bribe this guy, which is Hikari's action. You can get info from NPCs at night, and I'm going to buy a Royal Guards Helm. So this Royal Guards Helm will boost Hikari's critical, which, of course, will be useful for later on in the run, but I need to do it, or I need to make a detour to pick it up early, because there's one fight I need it for. But anyway, Life in the Shadows gives a 50% XP and JP boost to all battles done at night, which stacks with my other XP boost, so I get double XP and JP at night. Oh yeah, there's 55% steal there, which is a little annoying, but hey, it worked fine. In general, the way Steel Chance works is it kind of increases the higher Throne's level is, and each item an NPC has is a different kind of base level that Throne needs to be a 100% chance. And the further you are away from it, the lower your Steel Chance is. So, as a principle, when routing this, I made sure that there's no steals I go for that are under a 55% chance. And even when I do go for low rate steals, like a 55%er, I make sure that there's not too many of them, so I don't accidentally lose my reputation in the town.
My turn.
Because that loses that has the
For the pride.
Also, I can defeat those guards real quick with those soldiers by just throwing a soul stone at them. And now here's a challenge. And while Hikari will be my main damage dealer, he doesn't quite have the strength to defeat this guy normally yet, so I'm just going to resort to the Gold Classic and just use Guard Help here. And there it goes. That sword attack did, it's pretty strong, so it hit pretty hard. You can kind of see the effect, at least a little bit, of the gear I have on Hikari. Also, that guy has a learned skill, which I just learned, called Divine Dual Edge. It's a pretty strong sword attack that hits twice, and notably, if you ever like forget it, like it's a learned skill you can't get back. In a casual playthrough, this isn't usually too big of a deal though, because there are stronger AoE learned skills, but for this run, it's very useful. It's going to be useful for base people currently. So now here's the Foreign Assassins. This is a pretty tough option with this, but they're also very vulnerable to get hurt. So I'm going to be doing it. So I use the fact that Beastlings will always break shield to break all of them at once. They also get a bunch of HP for Hikari, and then I use the damage output of that master. Notably, I used Critical Scope on one of them, and that guarantees that I get the Overkill bonus. So at the end of a battle, you can get bonus XP, JP, or money based on completing certain objectives. So the main objectives that I care about, well, I guess I care about all of them, but in that battle, the main ones I care about are, actually, I'll explain this real quick. So here I'm going to learn Evil Ward on Throne. I'll need that later when I swap Cortizio out of the party. I also learned some Hunter skills on her, which will be useful later. Hikari will become an Arms Master, which right now he's just useful for this. It's just useful for the stats. Hikari will learn Casti will learn some Scholar passives, Merchant passives, and notably I'll equip Evasive Maneuvers. Extra Experience, which is a 10% extra experience, which really isn't a lot, but it'll add up. So I get 2.1 times XP from everything I kill now. I also got Boost Start on Casti and Step Ahead, so pretty standard set. I also gave her the Inventor job, which will be useful later. What was I talking about before? Oh right, yeah, the battle bonuses. So Overkill, basically the Critical Scope guarantees I get the Overkill bonus. And those bonuses give a 10% extra XP and JP, and notably it's actually multiplicative, so... Also, I just barely get a second battle here. Sometimes you can skip it, but most of the time you skip it. A little unfortunate I got it so close to this option here. So this boss I'll be using a mixture of higher level and more standard battle tactics. Did not mean to accidentally summon that guy, I wanted to be corrosive. But I used Aggressive Slash, the quarter skill that hits a bunch of time with sword. But then I can find Dual Edge twice for good damage. And what happens to actually hit that card is because of what the Conqueror's sword was. Actually, I'll explain that after I explain what I'm going to do. So after I've gotten, so the main reason I come here, two reasons. So the first is the Finisher's Clause item, and the second is to get info from this guy. I'll need that info for one of the Galdera requests, but the Finisher's Clause are the main reason are honestly, arguably even more important, because that will increase the damage of my critical hits by 50%, which is huge. The way you deal large amounts of damage in this game is by stacking a bunch of damage on top of one another. So, critical hits give a 25% boost normally. Finisher's Clause, since it multiplies the damage of critical hits by 1.5 times, will increase the damage of my critical hits to like 87.5%, which is an insane damage boost. And combine that with Critical Scope, which lets me always crit, and I'm gonna hit like a truck. And speaking of hitting like a truck, I need to get into this area here to pick up another item.
Now it begins.
And that item will be the Giant's Club. It is a staff weapon that has a passive effect that will increase the physical damage of the character who has it equipped by 30%. And it applies regardless of what weapon type I'm actually attacking. So even if I'm, say, using a sword to attack, I still get that 30%, which is very useful. So now... Oh, right, the other reason I did the Foreign Assassins at that point, the main reason I did the Foreign Assassins is because they drop a large amount of XP and JP. In fact, they actually drop the second most XP of any encounter in the game. And we talked about Galdera himself. Yes, they drop more than the normal final boss of the game, which is kinda absurd. But I need the XP because I need to knock this guy out with Throne, and I need to be level 30 for that. I guess I could have used Casti for it, but that would require another Herb of Serenity, and there isn't another convenient one to pick up.
Time to clean up the filth.
And, you know, getting the extra levels. Like, never say no to a bunch of levels. And the reason I did Foreign Assassins when I did is because I wanted to wait until I had Life in the Shadows, like that extra XP bonus, before I did them. So now here will be the second book of the 3 I need for the Galdera quest. Unfortunately, I'm not even able to steal that one. I have to buy it. I have to spend 2k to buy it. It's like a 15% steal, I think, which is kind of insane. I'm level 30, like it shouldn't be that low. Like the first book I stole was like an 100% steal, and I was like wasn't even level 20. Anyway, whatever. Speaking of stealing, I'm going to steal some items from this guy here. Namely, some energizing pomegranates. Those are items I can use to give a character a BP, or boost points. So, they let me boost more by giving me more BP. Very strong item, but for most bosses I won't obviously need them because I'll just have enough, the natural BP will be enough. I'll just deal enough damage that the natural BP is enough. But, if I need to have a longer fight, I'll be using items. So now here, Particio is leaving the party, Temenos is coming in, because I need Temenos' Knight ability. So I'll now equip my Giant's Club, equip my Finisher's Claws, and give Hikari a Fortifying Nut, which increases his physical attack. So, also, I'm equipping Evil Ward on Throne because now I don't have Particio in the party, and giving Temenos boost start. I don't know what I was going to say. Anyway, I'm doing this is kind of a mini-boss fight. Oh, right, the nut. I don't technically need the damage from it yet, but I need it later, and it's just the most convenient to use it now. So in this fight, I need to land a critical hit to defeat this guy. So I will set up a critical scope. This guy right here. And I'll use Divine Blue Edge and
for the pride of Ku.
And now this part of the chapter has just a ridiculous amount of cutscenes in a row for no reason. Except for, I guess, here. So this little flashback sequence. And you have to fight this guy.
Time to train.
Child Hikari actually has the same stats at level 1 hit. So, Child Hikari's pretty buff. Anyway, I guess this would be like Teenage Hikari. Anyway, I can defeat this guy, it's not too complicated to fight. Just do those things and defeat him. Nothing really too complicated. Not really a particularly interesting fight. Anyway, shout out to this part of the chapter for having 11 cutscenes in a row, which is kinda insane. And speaking of cutscenes, it's super nice that basically every cutscene in this game is skippable. So, this speedrun would be a lot longer if they weren't. And probably a lot worse on your hands if you have to, like, you know, mash buttons through cutscenes. I don't want to mash buttons through cutscenes. I want to hold the skip cutscene button and just skip my cutscenes. Anyway, so now I'm going to do the next boss. And, there is a money chest here that's pretty quick to pick up. It's got 16k in it. The old route for this run actually would pick up a different chest that was more out of the way, but it gave a lot more money. It gave an item called the sunken gold statue. But anyway, that aside, the reason I'm doing the... Actually, I won't get into that. There's another item in this area that I want. And it's in this chest, off to the left here. This That is a thunderstorm amulet that will reduce lightning damage by 99%, which is very powerful, and there's a boss later on that uses lightning attacks, which that'll be very useful against. So, now this boss here. So this boss here is I'm gonna have to actually use a pomegranate on. It's the last boss of the out first to kill the ads. Set a critical scope. Give Tempos a pomegranate here.
Here, many thanks.
Because I use more higher health next turn.
Well, now.
And also I'm burning that leech. Yeah, I don't actually need it. Normally you need to pick up some leeches for Agnia later, but I realized you don't actually need it. Anyway, see you, Ryan.
Goodness.
And I'll kind of explain why I'm doing. I'll now explain why I'm doing Hikari's chapters at this point in the run. So basically, the reason I want to do Hikari's chapters is there are two particular rewards I get from completing them that are extremely useful for the run. And I've just unlocked. So I've learned all the warrior skills on Hikari, and that unlocks the passive Deal More Damage, which increases the damage cap from 9,999 to 99,999, which is a pretty massive increase. And so I've kind of already explained all the damage multipliers I've picked up by this point, but I haven't explained what the Conqueror's Sword is, because the Conqueror's Sword is an interesting mechanic. So at default, it is a sword that gives 200 attack, which for the stage of the game where you normally get it, is not that great. However, when attacking a broken enemy, it becomes a 450 attack sword, which is phenomenal. So so against these bosses, I'll be breaking them, and then I'm going to be hitting really hard with the sword. But you're probably wondering, what skill am I going to be using to hit them? And I've already said it. It's the Conqueror's Sword. So the Armor Master's gimmick is that every weapon has its own kind of skill associated with it. And the Conqueror's Sword skill is a really cool skill that normally doesn't really see a lot of use in casual play. I'd say that's kind of warranted, because it's kind of mid, to be honest. But it's not going to look mid. But basically, the way the skill works is that it's basically a charge-up move. So when you use it, you charge it up, and it'll release at the end of the turn. And the more actions that have taken place between starting charging and releasing it, the more damage it'll do. And this skill, which has pretty decent base power, like the power on it is, I think, if I remember correctly, it's like a bit stronger than Brand's Blade, which is the warrior's ultimate skill. Though that's probably like, though as far as like damage skills go, Brand's Blade is kind of like, it's alright. Anyway. But with all that power combined with the damage multipliers I have, it's going to hit really hard. So, bear witness. So, this first fight, this chapter's a boss rush of sorts, and it's one of my favorite parts of the run. So, first off, I'm going to break this enemy.
Not this time.
So, I'm going to set up critical scope, I'm going to break the guy with Temenos, start charging Conqueror's Sword, break the Temenos. I'm going to use a baiting orb. So, a baiting orb is weird. And yeah, there's the damage cap.
I still have much.
But a baiting orb is weird. Basically, what it does is it removes buffs from enemies. So I used it on an enemy that didn't even have any buffs. So why'd I use it? Well, certain bosses cannot die until certain cutscenes. But the cannot die thing is actually stored as a buff, and a baiting orb can remove it against a lot of sprint bosses. So I'll be using that for a good amount of bosses. And here you're going to see that this isn't even a full charge Conqueror's Sword, and it's still going to kill.
Ready?
And also using the defend action to make sure I go first and get a good charge.
For the pride of coup.
And now, here's the downside of the main reason of having Hikari as my damage dealer is because he's the first who has enough JP for dealing damage. But the disadvantage of that is normally you'd use hired help on this fight. I'm unable to do that here.
Here I come.
So I guess I do save money by doing that. Anyway, so I can use slowing sweep here,
How's this?
and this is the other reason slowing sweep.
Sings.
That is slowing sweep. By decreasing speed, you increase crit chance because I'll just talk during this cutscene because this cutscene is unskippable and I hate it. It's super long. Technically, you can skip it with a baiting orb, but a baiting orb you can't use a baiting orb as an arms master. So anyway, but basically, the reason the speed thing works is that speed is basically the anti-crit stat. So speed acts as like a crit resistance. So by lowering speed, I can guarantee that I land a crit. And that's also the reason I picked up that, it's also the reason I picked up the, Royal Guard's helm and tinkering. That's what gives me enough crit to always land a crit. It's a little awkward having to go out of the way for that helm, but it's the only way that that fight could be really done in a feasible way. Anyway, this boss is cool. I'm 2 turns. I'm using hired help here because 10% normal attacks missed. He's too low level. This is why I picked up the cluster with proc, so casting 4 times there, Prana hits 3 more times. Now I set up all my buffs. Advantage of Conqueror's Sword, you can kind of buff up all the charges. So I debuff with Armor Corrosive. I use a Mountain Sausage from a earlier, so that'll buff his attack. And I use Critical Scope. And the main reason I need to roll those buffs is because that fight takes place during the day. It's just forced to take place during the day, so I can't get my free buffs. I have to use buffs normally. But anyway, that's Hikari's final chapter. That's one of my favorite parts of the run. It's super cool. Conqueror's Sword is amazing, but you won't be seeing it after this point because now I have better options. But before I get those better options, I need to do some stealings. Stealing some items I need later. I'm going to sell the Bow of Carnage that boss just dropped, because I need a little bit more money. And the reason I need so much money is because one of the things that completing Hikari's chapter unlocks is the battle-tested blade. So one of the mechanics in this game is that when you complete character stories, it unlocks, like, NPCs from those stories kind of come like, they show up around the game world, and they typically have really, really good items. So this is no exception. And the boss I defeated in Chapter 2 now appears as an NPC, and he has the best sword in the game, the Battle-Tested Blade. This thing has insane stats. It's got 450 attack. And I buy it right here with Partitio. It's got not 450, it's got 400 attack. It's got it boosts my critical when I'm attacking with it, which is nice. It has a big crit bonus, and also it has the same bonus as the Giant's Club, where it boosts my attack. It boosts my physical damage by 30%, and the two of them stack. So now I do 60% extra damage on all my physical attacks. And in case, like I mentioned the critical boost, but like that thing is actually non-insignificant. You get plus 120 to your critical stat when you're using the Battle-Tested Blade to attack, which is really nice. It's one of the key reasons I'm able to reliably get crits on a lot of these bosses. I just have a ton of crit from my Battle-Tested Blade, my Champion's Belt, and my Royal Guard's Helm. Of course, that won't be the only things I'll be getting to boost crit throughout the run, but that's most of it right there. So now that I've done Hikari's chapter, all of Hikari's story, basically, my next objective is I want to do Cassie's story. And the main reason for that is that it'll unlock an item called the Brooch of Joy. And that's another XP and JP boost. It'll be another 50% XP and JP boost, so it'll get me up to 2.6 times XP from every encounter I do, which is huge. So, unfortunately, this item requires a steal, and it's a pretty difficult one. Such that, normally you need to be level 50 on Throne A to have it be a 55% chance, and that's just really out of the way. But, there is a trick. I can inquire this guy here, and that'll get me thieving tips and tricks, which will reduce the quote-unquote level requirements of every steal in this town by 10. So I can do it at Throny level 40, which is a lot more reasonable.
Malia.
But here's the power of the battle-tested blade. I can just Divine Dual Edge the boss's different. Like,
There's
sure,
no
it's a
need for
pretty
flattery.
low-level plus, but that boss kind of has hands. Like, it can give you some trouble in your casual playthrough if you're fighting it normally. But I can basically just one-shot it, because, yeah. I have so many damage multipliers, I got a battle-tested blade now, like, pretty good. You know? Also, to another little caveat, to even do the Inquire to get thieving tips and tricks, normally you need Cassie level 40, which she's like level 36 right now. So how am I able to do that? Well, right at the beginning of the chapter, I inquired someone in the town, which gave me a bonus called Easier Inquiries, which lowered the level requirement for Inquire in that town by 10. So I basically inquired someone to make my Inquire stronger, which let me make my Steal stronger to steal something later on in the run. Which is just a really cool chain of events, to be honest. This chapter here is just kind of a do story. Every character in this game has one chapter that has no boss and just kind of, you know, just kind of story. This chapter is kind of a flashback chapter of sorts, but I won't get too much into story because that's not why you're here. You're here to see the bosses you have to do, cool strategies to be done. You're here to see fast gaming and not story, you know? If you want to see story, go watch a Let's Play. Or play the game yourself. It's a fantastic game. If you haven't played it already, I mean, you haven't seen too many spoilers, you just kind of seen what bosses look like. It's a great game. Very much recommend. I'm definitely not biased, seeing I have like 700 hours in this game by this point, which is kind of insane. Speedrunning this game has kind of just doubled my playtime, which is kind of ridiculous. I guess during this lull of the run, I'll kind of talk a little bit how this kind of got routed. So, the way that I routed this category is basically I started off by... Basically, I feel like the way you do speedrun routes is usually you kind of like start... So you kind of look at what the most demanding / most difficult parts of the run will be, and then determine what you need to accomplish. Like, figure out a strat for that, and then determine what you need, what items you'll need to accomplish that strat. So in this case, the 5 super bosses are basically like a, okay, what do I need to do these fights? And from there, I kind of work backwards to how do I get that stuff? That, of course, is very much oversimplification, and that process kind of was done over the course of, I'd say, a month or two. Obviously, I wasn't working constantly for that time. It wasn't. But it is a decent chunk of work for that. Anyway, this chapter... Also, this chapter is Cassie's final chapter, and in this town, Timberrain, there's a lot of useful items I can buy, which is a good reason I have Portitio in the party. I need them to buy the battle-tested blade, and I might as well just keep them in the party. So, he also gives me extra value when I sell things, such as that Conqueror's Sword. See a Conqueror's Sword, you were a good one. I'm also going to buy some concoct materials, which are a surprise tool that will help me later. And I will buy some Empowering Bracelets and Royal Guards Mill, which are really useful defensive gear. And if you've seen the other, if you've been watching the run, you might be realizing, like, hey, what do you need defensive gear for? Like, you've been kind of no-hitting all these bosses, like, what do you need defensive gear for? Well, the extra battles are really hard, and they are so hard, in fact, that you either, like, for one of them, doing a hitless run is very difficult, to the point where it's slower in the run to do it, and for the other one, doing a hitless run is literally impossible. So, defensive gear is useful for those 2 fights, and that is why I'm picking it up. I also grabbed a Wind Soul Stone from from a chest, which will be useful later. There's a lot of things, as you might have already told me, there's a lot of things in this run which I'll say that'll be useful later. Hopefully I actually bring them up when they are useful, but no, it's fine. Also, during this chapter, it's raining, which is one thing that's a little funny is, despite it raining, you can still get fire elementals as an encounter here, which I think is a little funny. I don't think I get them in this run, but I just think it's a little funny that can happen. Oh right, I haven't even mentioned the skill, the other reason you do Hikari's final chapter, which is when you complete a character's final chapter, you unlock one of their EX skills. So you might have remembered I went to a shrine to unlock Agnia's Windy Refrain skill. That's one of her EX skills, but when completing a character's story, you get the other one. So in this case, I get Shinjumonjigiri, and this is the Shipkin's skill. So first I'm going to use Slow and Sweep, which increases my crit chance in this fight. It guarantees I can get it, because I know the boss's speed stat. Anyway, I can then use Take 8, and then use Evading Orb, and Armor Corrosive with Throne. And I use Throne's late reach to actually do it, to do those things. And that's Shinjumonjigiri. I'll explain Throne's later first. So the reason she has that is I equipped a support skill on her from the merchant job called Full Power, which gives her basically free latent every single thing, which is which is pretty useful. Granted, I'd say in speedruns it's less useful than it would be in actually, it might be even a bit more useful than it is in casual play, because in casual play you can just go to the end, refresh latent whenever you want, but that's kind of slow. In a speedrun, if you want latent a lot, Full Power is there. But anyway, Shinjumonjigiri, I'll explain what that does. Basically, it's a sword skill. It does one big AoE hit, and then it does a big, strong single target hit. And because it hits twice, that means you can do more than 100,000 total damage, which is nice. Another advantage of it hitting twice is the fact that you're more likely to get an overkill notice, because the first hit can get it low, and the second hit will overkill. Whereas if it was a single hit skill, it's just going to do one big hit, and that's not going to overkill. Because that's just how the overkill mechanic is percentage based. Anyway, so I started Agnia's chapters because I need to do. There's some items that are unlocked by them. I'm not going to complete all of them, but I can complete some. But you might be wondering why I'm just left the chapter and have done doing a detour. And the reason for that is I need XP for Agnia. Also, I'm fighting a shark, big scary shark, and Sia.
For the pride of Ku.
But basically, what was I saying? Yeah. So the reason I need to level Agnia up to do some entreats. There is notably one entreat that I need to do in the town that has that I'm making a story in. So I need to do some optional battles to get her the XP. These are battles I need to do anyway, so might as well do that. So for this fight, I'm using critical scope, so I crit, and then this boss is in panic where hit it with a weakness and it removes that weakness. So I basically use 6-fold strike, hit it 6 times, and break it with Prone, and then I can actually defeat it with Hikari, which is kind of insane there. That boss has 150,000 total HP, and Shinjumonjigiri just kills that. Insane. Here I get Decaying Dragon's Essences, which, like I said, will be useful later. I also get a Fang of Ferocity, again, useful later, same with Tornado Glaive. And I still don't quite have enough XP. I need Agnia to be level, 25 to do the entreat. I think she's level 24 right now. So I need to do another little errand. And defeat another sea monster.
Here I am, not this time.
So this one I need to use critical scope. Fortunately, this one is actually weak to swords. And since it's weak to swords, I can just that, and it dies. And now Agnia is is level 25. I think, actually no, she's level 26 at this point, which is all I need her to be. This obviously isn't the entreat, I need to be level 8 for that one, but I need to be level 25 for this. That's a fortifying, which will be useful again, which will be useful to increase my physical attack. And also, during the process of killing sea monsters, I've also got Throne up to level 42 now, which, if you recall, is more than she needs to steal the Brooch of Joy. So that is what I will be doing to do during my next set of backtracking. So during this part of the story, I need to get some guests to, anyway, I need to allure some people, which is Agnia's other path action. Basically, you can get people to follow you, but it has a chance of failing, and the higher Agnia level is, the lower the chance of failing is, which is another reason why it's useful to just go kill some enemies to level up Agnia. Normally that guy, the first guy to alert, is a 50% chance, but since Agnia's higher level, it's now a 72% chance, which is a lot better. And now I will actually go picking up my Brooch of Joy. And also, as a bonus, since I have Agnia in the party, I can entreat a large fortifying nut from this NPC right here. And here's the Brooch of Joy, 55%. I think I first try it. Yep. And also, so I'll equip that to Casti. Here I get paranoid because I think I'm getting paranoid here because I wasn't sure if I actually equipped it. But I am doing the rest of the menu as well. A little sloppy, I know. And I also forgot to use that fortifying nut there because it's the most convenient time to use it. Anyway, not my finest. And I think I'm going to check pretty soon if I actually equipped the Brooch of Joy. Or at least sometime I'll check it. But anyway, whatever. Enough talking about mistakes. Now I have all the XP bonuses that I'll get for the run. And I also stole a Sprightly Ring, which is a ring which is an accessory that will increase my speed by 20. And that doesn't obviously sound particularly good, but especially because if you know anything about speed in this game, it's very not reliable. But it is actually going to be very useful. Somehow. I'll get to it later. So now I'm going to go fight Agnia's Chapter 2 boss. And here I guess I can, since I'll be picking up another one of those lightning resistance items, namely this one will be a lightning amulet instead of a thunderstorm amulet, I can talk a little bit more about why those are useful. For the last boss of the run, it has an attack called Condemning Bolt, which hits random party members, like purely random, and does ridiculous levels of damage. To the point where, like, even if you have good gear, this thing will rip through your team. Even if you have good gear, it can still, like, 2 or 3 shot. I'd say 2 shot, like, characters with good gear. And I will not be having good gear. I will be having the bare minimum. So I'll instead be using Thunderstorm Amulets to reduce the damage to basically nothing. Because of lightning, however, I can only reduce it on the number of characters I actually have those amulets on. So I'll basically be getting getting lightning resistance items such that 3 characters will always survive that attack. After explaining the first boss in the game, I will now talk about the easiest seal fight. That is all the attention I can give. I think here's when I get paranoid and be like, okay, I'm like doing mental math in my head to be like, did I equip it? I don't actually know how much the money drops at base, so I'm just like mini panicking, like, was that a reasonable amount of XP to drop? I did equip the Brooch of Joy, I just am a silly goose. Also, a convenient part of this chapter is it puts you right outside New Delsta, which lets me turn in the quest for Hal. Like that book, like not the book, the bag quest that thief I defeated really early on in the run. Yeah, that's me turning in the quest for that. And now I'm doing Agnia's Chapter 3. This is another kind of basic story chapter. This is Agnia's chapter that doesn't have any bosses. But here again, there's some backtracking, so I'm going to do a little errand. What do I do here? Oh, right, yeah. My errand, in this case, is doing a different story chapter, which is Throne's Chapter 3. One thing about chapters in this game is there's different, like, basically, sometimes there's kind of branching paths. So in Throne's case, she has 2 Chapter 3s. One where she fights Mother, and one where she fights Father. Though they aren't actually her parents, but that's just their names. Anyway, but basically you have to do both parts of the chapter anyway. It's just you can do whatever order you want. This chapter, the only reason I will be doing it is one, I want the I need the JP from it a little bit, but the other reason, and the more important one, is that for these chapters that have different routes, if you start a route and then try to start the other route, it will pause the first one. So since I'll have to go to the town with Throne's other route in it later, I need to do this chapter at some point. I'll need to do this chapter at some point, basically. So on this boss, this is another boss where evading orb is useful.
My turn.
So I use my full power with Throne to armor corrosive and evading with it. And then I can just Shinju on Jagiri. And because Shinji is the 2-hit move that it is, I actually get an overkill bonus here. Which, they add up. 10% more XP. So I get like 2.6 times, and then I get to add another 20% to that. Or not 20%, but add another 10% to that. Anyway. That would be, I shouldn't be just doing mental math, I should be actually commentating, but I guess there's not really much going on, so I'll do the mental math, I guess. It would make it 2.86 times XP. I think. No, I think I'm correct. Anyway, math aside, sorry for the math jump scare. If you're not a particular math guy, I am a math guy. But that real life aside, anyway. Now I've completed Agnia's Chapter 3, and I can finally start the chapter where the actual reason I'm doing Agnia chapters. Also, yeah, that's where my paranoia finally gets to me, and I check if Cassidy has the Brooch of Joy equipped. She does. Everything is fine. Well, actually, the main concern I had is whether I equipped the Brooch of Joy in a different slot than the XP Augmenter, or the same one. Because if I equipped it in the same slot... Also, there is me being indecisive. Normally, you would steal an item from that NPC I passed by. You'd steal a Reinforcing Gem, which refills latent power. But the only reason you would need that is if you had to refill Throne's latent power near when you got the Champion's Belt. But since I got the good turn order there, I didn't need to do that. Also, this entreat here requires Agnia level 25. And it's another reason I need Agnia to have levels. If I want to do this chapter at this point in the run, I need to level up Agnia. But considering I already want to do a bunch of entreats with her, leveling her up is a no-brainer. But the main reason I'm doing this chapter is for a dagger called the Wind Whisperer, which I'll be able to find in a chest in this area. Technically, the area I'm about to go to. Technically speaking, I don't actually get to do the chapter to get this dagger, but it's just most convenient to do it when you're doing the chapter, as opposed to coming to this area beforehand. So there's the Wind Whisperer. That will increase my wind damage by 30%.
Come and get me.
The Tornado Blade that I picked up will also increase wind damage by 30%. So, and I'll be picking up a third wind weapon later that'll increase my wind damage by another 30%, so I'll be able to increase wind damage by 90%. So, pretty big. I'll be using a wind damage build later, as you might guess.
Wait for me, Lila.
So here's the boss,
Cleaning time. You're over.
and this one I don't need evading orb, so I can just armor corrosive and do.
I still have much to learn.
Well, not really dead, but defeated. So now I've done Agnia's chapter 4, and now I will do a cross path story. So I also need to do these to complete the story, and basically these are chapters that contain 2 characters. Also, I was supposed to just go to the NPC and not switch to day and then night. So then, at this point, I wanted to switch Agnia out of the party, but obviously that would cancel this chapter I'm doing. Also, I'm sleeping at the inn here, even though it's slow, because Porticio died earlier. Because I got bad luck. I'm also selling some items here, and I'm doing that after I get Porticio, so I can still get the extra cell. I can get the extra cell value. Basically, I want to do Porticio's story, and I need money after I complete that story, so that's why I'm doing that. And so I'm swapping Porticio out, and then during Porticio's final chapter, also I forget to switch to night again. In general, I think I played decently well during this run. There, of course, were some small mistakes like that. And my luck is okay. Like, I got lucky in some areas, unlucky in others. I'm pretty happy with how this run went. Anyway, so now I can start Porticio's final chapter. Obviously, I want Casti back in the party, but there's a convenient time to do that. But also, there's some NPCs here that have good items, so I will be stealing those too. So, more pomegranates, another soulstone. This guy I can bribe, and that'll unlock a hidden item, which is a critical nut, a large critical nut, which will be useful to boost critical. And now I put Casti back in the party, and that'll be the last time Agnia is in the party for a good bit. Though she will be coming back. Intrigue is useful, I'll meet her for a few fights, and, her story isn't even done yet, so there's that. To be honest, every character in the run gets at least some cool moment. As another fun fact, every single character in this run will use their latent power at least once.
Are you my destination?
Bring it up, bring it
My
up.
turn.
So for this chapter here, this room is just massive. So while I do have a travel banter here, I'm not really able to use it to skip encounters entirely. I use it here just to make it so that I can always get here with one encounter instead of 2.
When I was younger,
then I can use another travel banter in this room to actually completely skip an encounter. So I use one here, and now I don't have to worry about getting an encounter in this room, which is pretty nice. One thing about speedrunning this game is that you always have to remember to switch it to night for boss fights, at least if you need it to be night. So if you notice here, I go switch to night, and now this boss is the one time I'm using hired help ruffians.
Well, time to get down
So
to business.
ruffians debuff physical attack and defense from all enemies. So with Porticio here, I'm going to use hired help ruffians
Let's get
to
to work.
debuff all the parts of this boss.
My God.
Throne can use take aim
I
to
have
buff
you now.
Hikari's critical, so that Hikari always lands a crit
What a
on this
pity.
boss. And then
My turn. Not this time. I'll end.
I can Shinju Manjigiri's first hit to all the parts, and a second hit to kill
I
me.
still have much to learn.
Very cool kill. I'm a decent fan of that one. Even though, it's 4 actions long. But, hey. So, Porticio's chapter, completing Porticio's story, will unlock the battle-tested staff. which isn't quite as good as the battle-tested blade. It doesn't also give like 30% extra damage to a damage type, but it does have 400 elemental attack, so I do want it. So I will be spending another 90k on battle-tested stuff. And speaking of spending money, that is a pretty major difference between this run and runs that allow Alrond. Because if you're using Alrond, you can just get to level 82 and steal things for free. So if you steal things, you obviously don't have to pay for them. So money is a lot tighter in this run. And that's another one of the reasons I did Hikari's chapter with Conqueror's Sword, because I want to save money. Normally you'd want to like hired help your way through a bunch of chapters, but I can't really do that nearly as much in this run, which, in my opinion, makes the run a lot cooler. Also, you know, I won't be nearly anywhere close to level 82 by the end of the run. Like, I'll be like level 60. That's it. And that's on my highest level characters. Anyway, here's Ochet's story, and here I need to use Provoke. Provoke normally is basically like Hikari's challenge, and instead of using its skills, you can only use beasts. But I don't actually have any good beasts, but Soulstones work, so just use Soulstone. It works just fine. So the main reason I want to do Ochet's story is there is as you might have guessed, there is an item that you unlock at the end of the chapters that will be very useful for the Galdera fight. We're actually getting somewhat close to the Galdera fight. I think it'll be in like less than half an hour from now. So I'm kind of just, this stage of the run is basically just gathering all of the supplies I need for the Galdera fight. So now I'm doing Ochet's, another one of Ochet's chapters. This is one of the biggest RNG parts of the run, because to progress through this chapter, you need to catch a Buttermeep. So I'm going to leave the town after giving Ochet the Arms Master job and getting rid of evasive maneuvers, because of course I'm going to do a little bit of grinding. This is basically the only grinding in the run. And I get extremely lucky here. That's a 30% chance, and I get it first try.
Here I come.
What to do? My turn. Here we go.
And there's Buttermeep.
My turn.
I can use Hikari's Spear Attack to weaken it. That Spear Attack almost kills it, by the way, despite Hikari literally having, like, despite it being, like, his starting spear. Also, I will turn the Buttermeep into Jerky, because that's how you progress in the story, and turn my Snow Yak into Jerky too. The Snow Yak's Jerky will apply health regeneration when I use it, which will be very interesting for one fight in the run. So the reason I need the Buttermeep Jerky is because of Ochet's path action Befriend. Befriend is like, think Particio's Hire or Agnia's Allure, only she needs to give NPCs Jerky. Anyway,
On your guard.
I'm learning a skill from this NPC. Hi, old woman. Hi, old woman.
There's no need for flattery. It'll rest on soul.
After that very anticlimactic challenge, I can learn Vacant Stare. It's useful on one fight in the run, but it's incredibly valuable in that fight, so yeah. Also, I need to knock out this guy, because he has the last book that I need to unlock the Galdera fight. So now I have all the requirements to unlock the fight. I just need to actually complete the quests. So I'll be doing that later, a bit later. But before I do that, obviously, I need to go fight a boss. Also, one thing you might have noticed is when I put evasive maneuvers back on Cassidy, I also gave Ochet a bunch of gear.
My turn.
So she got the Royal Guards Mail, which is one of those defensive gear I bought, so it gives her a bunch of HP, which will help her provoke enemies. Which will help her during provokes, because the NPCs can hit hard. Also, I'll pause that and talk about the fight real quick.
Come on, Terra.
So, this fight, I think I get okay turn order.
It's not this time.
So I can Armor Corrosive, Shinju Monjigiri,
I'll end. Shinju Monjigiri.
and then just capture. And Ochet's bosses are actually unique because you actually capture them. So they're beasts, or they're monsters, and you can actually capture them and add them to your team. You aren't able to skip that capture, by the way. Like, you just straight up can't. Like, the boss just will not end until you capture it. And you can't, like, accidentally kill it. Anyway, back on the subject of what I gave Ochet. Ochet actually, also the reason I gave Ochet the Arms Master job is that she now has the wind damage increasing weapons that I had picked up. And this will be useful for a provoke later, but it actually helps a little bit on this provoke coming up tier 2. So here I can use a Soul Stuff M, and then my secret weapon is my new beast I have, Terra. He's pretty strong and just wins the fight from instantly, which is very nice.
I'm hungry. Good job.
So we're gonna approach Ochet's next boss. There are actually some useful items in this area, but none of them are needed in the run, so I'm skipping them all. One thing that's interesting about this area, actually, and something I guess I can explain, which I haven't explained yet, is the first encounter will occur twice as fast in any area, so regardless if I get the encounter before or after the cutscene, I'll always only get one encounter. Anyway, I got perfect turn over here, and can one turn the boss, which is perfect.
Let's go. Mine now.
And that is
Now
Glacius.
let's grab some food.
So now I can, just like Terra, you can actually summon Glacius, but I will not be doing that in this run. Though, if you want to see a run that does summon Glacius, any percent actually does use Glacius for one fight, but it does get used. So there's that. Ochet and Throne actually share a fun fact about their final chapter, in that it actually takes place in the same area as they started out in. Or it's like literally the same town. So I steal another fortifying nut there, because this run can never have too many nuts, because I need all the stats I can get, considering I will not have Alrond to get a free 80 levels. So I'm not even gonna fully make up for those 80 levels. Like, you might be thinking, oh, are you using, like, nuts to just completely make up for those 80 levels? No. My stats are going to be lower, and there's actually a level bonus in damage, and I won't have that either. So I will be dealing less damage, and I'll have to work around that too.
Neither of us is willing to back down.
Also, I'm fighting these guys at night, despite it not being necessary. Like, I can kill them during the day.
There's no need for
But the reason I'm fighting them at night is because of Life in the Shadows. I get extra XP and JP, I think. That's kind of it.
I'm the hunter.
Also, since Yukari levels up here, normally he's going to run out of SP, but
next.
since he leveled up, it fully refreshes HP and SP, so he doesn't run out, which is nice.
I'm the hunter.
Also, I'm not full boosting Divine Dual Edge here, I'm only one boosting it, because that way I can
There's
get
no need
overkill.
for flattery. It'll rust my soul.
And again, this is a thing that really only happens because it's a 2-hit move. So the first hit gets them low, second hit kills. On basically every group encounter in this run, I have it set up such that I boost to the required amount, I boost just as much as I need to boost, so that I get an overkill bonus. I mean, you don't need all the extra XP, but like, it's nice, it helps. And in this area, there is the final wind boosting weapon, the Tornado Bow. But there's also some enemies, and these guys I'm actually going to defeat during the day.
Right. Come on.
Who's next? I still have much to learn.
So there's the tornado bow, and now I'm going to equip it to Ochette. And I'm going to learn some skills. So Aber's Reckoning for Throne A, that is the Thief's ultimate skill. And I'm going to equip Step Ahead on Cassie. I'll explain what Aber's Reckoning does when I actually start using it, because I will use it for a little bit. The other skill I learned is Leg Hold Trap, which basically it pushes the enemy's actions to the end of the turn, and it'll be useful on one fight, but it's one of those things, it's really useful in one fight. I mean, it's useful in the entire game for a normal playthrough, but in this run you only need it for one fight. But it's quick to learn, and it's super, super valuable in that one fight. Anyway, this is the reason why Mahina is the only pick, because boss is different depending on who you pick, and if you pick a Koala, the boss isn't weak to swords, whereas if you pick Mahina, the boss is weak to swords. So in this case, since the boss is weak to swords, I can just kill it without breaking it, which is a lot more convenient.
There's no need for flattery. It'll rest on sword.
And now that Ochette's final chapter is done, I can obtain the incredibly powerful Alpione's Amulet. This item is named after Alpione, the quest giver who gives it to you, and Alpione is also the woman I had to provoke during the first chapter of Ochette I did. Also, I am exactly one level too short of being able to inquire for this quest. I have to bribe. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a little annoying. Anyway, I can complete this quest by talking to her. It's such an easy quest for how good the item is. And then I'm going to do Ochette and Cassie's cross path. Also, I realize here that I forgot to steal a shark nut, which increases accuracy. So I go and steal it. I'm going to do this cross path, and while I do the cross path, I will explain what Alpione's Amulet does. So Alpione's Amulet is basically, it increases max HP by 1,200, which will actually be useful, but the main reason you use it is the fact that it gives you the lower your HP is, the more of a damage boost the item will give you. So if you're at 1 health, you get a 3 times damage boost from this thing, which is insane. And I'll be using that to hit extremely well. Also, speaking of damage boosts, I realize I've just completely forgotten to mention Peak Performance, which is the reason I got 3 Arms Master skills. Because it just gives me a 50% damage boost when I'm at full health. So I want to try and stay at full health whenever possible. On characters that I have equipped, obviously. Which in this case is Hikari. So Hikari's been using it for basically the entire run. So now I'm doing the second chapter of the cross path. And the reason I'm doing this chapter now is because not only does it give a little bit of JP, but the main reason is simply because of the wind weapons in Ochette. I want to have the wind weapons for a provoke that takes place in this chapter, right here. But I want to give the wind weapons to someone else for the Galdera fight. So it's really awkward if I have to, juggle the wind weapons around after the Galdera fight. Also, this chapter doesn't even have any encounters, so I don't lose any time for doing it early. So it's just convenient to do now. So I throw a Wind Soulstone L, and thanks to the wind boosting weapons, they actually increase the damage of the Soulstone. So I can two-shot.
Now let's grab some food.
And two-shotting that guy is really nice. That's the fight you normally use Glacius on. So it saves a good chunk of time.
Miscasting. It hurts.
And then there's a boss here that has very underwhelming stats for where it is in the game. Like, it's level 45 boss, and it has like half the HP that was Final Chapter bosses.
Hunter, you're the prey.
Though its
Right,
defenses are
not
high
this
enough that I
time.
still need to max
You're
boost
open.
Shinjumon Giri to kill it. There's a little bit of unfortunate.
I fight for Shinjun good. For the
At least I
pride
get an
of
overkill
true
bonus for my troubles. And that is the last bit of story I will be doing before I go kill Galdera. I just need to do a bit more prep work, so I'll kind of be explaining what I'm doing here, like what I'm actually equipping, what I'm going to be getting. So I'm getting some items first. First thing I'm going to do is I'm getting a quick cloak here. That'll boost speed. And I guess I'll explain Aber's Reckoning right now, because I'm going to bribe this guy for extra stuff in the shop. But Aber's Reckoning is a very powerful physical attack that gets an additional damage multiplier based on how much speed you have. So I'm going to basically be balancing on Throne. I'm going to be balanced, because Throne is actually going to be taking Hikari's job for the
I'll take
Galdera fight. Speaking of jobs, actually, Hikari swapped to Scholar, and the only reason I did that is simply just because it's a staff job, so it lets him equip Giant's Club. But Throne will be taking over the Hikari for physical damage on Galdera. And the reason for that is I want to bring Casti and Hikari to the same phase, because both phases of Galdera have separate XP drops. So if I put all my XP modifiers in one phase of the boss, I can get a ridiculous amount of XP, because this boss drops like an insane amount of XP. So I can get an insane amount of XP on 4 characters of my choice. So I want Casti and Hikari to be in those 4 characters. So now I'm just going to learn some skills that I need to do the fight. So I'm going to deal more damage on Throne, and I'm going to give her Scholar for the fight. And now I'm going to learn Seal Thieves' Seduction. You don't need to know what Seal Thieves' Seduction does, because I'm never going to use it. I don't even need passives. The only reason I'm learning Seal Thieves' Seduction is because I'm also learning it on Hikari here too. So basically, you can obtain additional licenses for subjobs, so that would let multiple characters fit at once. So for Dancer, if you unlock the divine skill for the job, which is Seal Thieves' Seduction, you can obtain more licenses. So by unlocking it twice, I can obtain 3 licenses, which allows me to have 3 dancers at a time, plus Egmia, so I can have 4 dancers. Why do you need 4 dancers? Well, the very last fight in the run I need 4 dancers for. So, yeah. I'll get to that when I get to that. Also, I need to turn in the quest for the Galdera fight, so here I'm learning some more skills. That, I'm learning Stimulate, which is a dancer skill, and I'm also learning Aelfric's Blessing, which is the reason I pick up Cleric. It's so good. Also, Casti is now Arms Master, which is the job she will be when we are doing damage with her, because she will be our magic damage dealer. I'm also equipping the equipment I need for Galdera, mainly accuracy on Particio, magic gear on Casti, including Alpione's Amulet, and the Fang of Frosty, which has a 30% boost to 30% boost when to attacks that I boost. And Throne basically just stole Hikari's setup, plus a dagger I bought and the quick cloak. So basically she's got a lot of crit, a lot of speed, and a lot of physical attack. Not quite as much physical attack as Hikari, obviously, but enough to get the job done. And she has enough crit to land crits 100% of the time on the boss, which is which took a fair bit. Well, actually, she will have it when I've used all the nuts on her that I want to use. And now I've unlocked the fight. Now that I've unlocked the fight, I just have a little bit more to do before I can actually fight him. Namely, just going to the island and using some nuts. And of course, swapping support skills, because Throne still has her support set on. And that can't be... Also, Hikari, I gave him Thief to learn Life in the Shadows so that I can put all those XP bonuses in Phase 1. So, I'm giving Casti all my magic nuts. I'm giving Throne so I'm increasing her physical attack, her speed, and her critical. Oh, accuracy too. And I'm giving Throne basically Hikari's damage set. And I'm giving Casti deal more damage and elemental augmentation. So basically, the support skills I gave Throne, I gave her peak performance, I gave her deal more damage, and I gave her summon strength, which increases her physical attack by 50, which isn't a massive boost, but it's the best thing I could equip there. Because there just isn't anything else I could equip. And for Casti, I gave her 50 more elemental attack, and I gave her, Also, I said no here for no reason. Anyway. So now I swap the parties. I set up my party for Galdera. It's a 2-phase fight, and here we go. One of my favorite fights. Here we go. So normally, Casti would actually concoct here to make sure she goes last next turn, but she's already going last, so I can just waste a turn. This is AoE Springy Boots, and it's why I need speeds to be precise.
Thinking time.
So basically, the entire party has Springy Boots. The turn order perfectly comes down to speed. So since Casti has the giant shield, which lowers her speed, she can always go last. And the health regeneration I gave from the snow is 15%, exactly. Thanks to Alchemist Amulet, Casti kills all 3 of those. And this boss applies a flame thing that does damage to you at the end of each of your turns. Also take aim so that Agnia and people can attacks. But fire does 15% damage. So the Snowy Stew perfectly counteracts fire, which lets me stay at 1 HP in the entire fight. I'm using Peacock Strike to cast the attack. I use the stair to put the boss's elemental defense to increase my damage. Oswald will defend here, because I need him going before I hit next turn. And with an insane amount of damage from Casti coming in, I've entered the second to last phase of the boss. And now I will use Analyze from Scholar to reveal the boss's weaknesses, which lets Elemental Bomb Bottle hit 8 times. This Elemental Bomb Bottle hits every revealed weakness the boss has. And then I give Casti a Pomegranate to give her and then I can just concoct and destroy everyone. Concoct is just pretty strong. I'll explain a bit more about it later when there's a second phase coming up. Throne having Throne's late power is broken. It'll be a great showcase of that in this fight. So Throne can get a free turn whenever she wants, and she can use that to use an item that fills her latent power and gives her other stuff too. And with how powerful Throne is now, she 3-shots all of the parts of the boss. I can give, and then I use Aelfric's Blessing, which gives an additional action at the end of every turn, so now Throne gets to basically go 4 times every turn, which obviously is very good. Now I can use Stimulate. Stimulate lets me kind of push characters ahead in the turn order, which lets Throne act before the boss, and, alright. If Throne was going last there, I would have max boosted the Stimulate, but I didn't. Anyway, I apply Aelfric's to Ochette, so now she'll be able to she'll get an extra action in each turn. And then she can use an item. She can use an item on Throne. For HP SP. This rejuvenating gem was found in the chest in Lock Island. It refills basically everything I want it to refill. And now I need to break the boss. It has a ton of cheats. So I can use Art, and I can have Throne use Latent again, Art Corrosive, attack 4 times. And how am I going to break 12 shields? Well, Ochette has the most broken skill in the game. She can summon one of her beasts up to 6 times. She can mix and match beasts too, but I only have that one beast that hits Spear a bunch of times, but that breaks. Now I can give Throne yet another item. Kind of pointless rejuvenate, but I have it, so I may as well use it. And don't need it for the rest of the run anyway. So now I just feed Throne a bunch of pomegranates and throw his Abers 3 more times and the boss dies. And that's the reason I used it.
I'll take this.
Anyway. With that, the boss is dead, and I gained 62,000 experience on the first party, which is an absurd amount of experience. So, before this fight, if you saw very briefly, Casti and Hikari were level 45. They are now level 57. So now I'm just equipping... I'm basically just undoing the equipment I was doing earlier. So I'm giving Casti back her a supportive set of equipment. I'm forgetting what to do here a little bit here. But Throne goes back to being a support. Hikari goes back to being a damage dealer, and all is right in the world. I equipped the wrong staff for a second there. Not all is right in the world, but I mean, Throne gets new cool stuff. Also, I equipped the giant shield. The giant shield is the thing I picked up alongside the battle-tested blade, and it basically just... it's a shield, so it does defend you. It does, like, you know, it has good defensive stats, but I literally never use it. I run for the defensive stats. The only reason that Giant Shield is picked up is because it lowers your speed, which is useful for Springy Boots. When everyone has Springy Boots, you know, the turn order is perfectly determined by speed, as I mentioned during the Galdera fight. So during the hardest fights of the run, I will be using Springy Boot out. On some of the hardest fights of the run, I will be using AoE Springy Boots by Agnia's Latent. I just realized I haven't even mentioned what Agnia's Latent power does, which is it makes skills affect the entire party. There is a lot to explain in this run. I am sorry if I've missed stuff. But Agnia makes single target skills into an AoE, so I can use AoE Springy Boots on the entire party, and that lets my turn order be perfectly determined by speed. So since I can set up the speed beforehand, I now know who will act in what order, which can help a lot for fights. So for Galdera, I had Giant Shield on Casti to make her act last, for example, and there will be a lot more precise stuff later. Anyway, here's Agnia's story. After, defeating God, let's do the most lighthearted story. Normal stuff.
Now,
Normal RPG things.
there's no need for flattery. It'll rest my soul.
And here I'm going to buy 3 Dazzling Tiaras, which will be the last shop purchase I do in the run. And I just need those for defensive gear. That's basically it. I also, basically, as I complete this kind of stage of the run, now that I've done Galdera, pretty chill. I don't get enemy encounters anymore, thanks to the drop from Galdera, the Spurning Ribbon. And I basically just am gathering the materials that I need for the extra battles. So a few more nuts, some defensive gear, such as that Empowering Necklace, which increases my max HP by 1,000, or whichever character you equip it to. As a spoiler, that will be Throne, interestingly enough. I've also kind of shuffled around who's got Step Ahead now, so it's just Throne and Hikari. So Throne is still the all-purpose, has gone back to her job of being the Swiss Army knife, so she can debuff the boss. And Hikari is the damage dealer, so he just clicks Shinju Manjigiri and things die.
Here I come. Not this time.
This fight does not, this is a big fight. First phase does a lot of HP, so a Shinju just kills. Though it doesn't look like, it never looks like it kills, or it takes a little to do damage, whatever. Great song, but you won't hear it for long because Armor Corrosive and Shinju Manjigiri. Also, fun fact about that fight, it fully refills your latent. It just does that. It's the only case in the entire game of a fight that fully gives you a latent power refill. At least in the character stories. There is one more fight that does it. Actually 2 more, but whatever. Now that Agnia's story is done, I still need to do the second part of her cross path. I also want to get to doing Throne's story. Also, the reason I'm doing Agnia's story is I mentioned that I need more critical. Or I want more critical. I also want more physical attack. And there is a shield called the, Also, here you can see I'm not getting any enemy encounters. But there is a shield called the Bodyguard's Vantage that is available from a quest after beating Agnia's story. So I want to basically start that quest and complete that quest as soon as reasonably possible. The fortunate thing is that the quest is in... You both start it and finish the quest in New Delsta. So, because there are actually still 2 chapters that take place in New Delsta that I have yet to complete, I can actually just start the quest on the first one of those chapters I do, and then complete it on the second one, which is really convenient, and is one of the reasons that I've routed the category this way. Speaking of routing, the Wind Whisperer dagger that I picked up wasn't always in the route. It used to be the Moon Eater, which was a stronger dagger that also boosted fire, but I don't need the damage from it, I just need the wind boost. It cost 60k, which was it made it a little awkward to route in, but
Not this time.
whatever.
What a pity.
This is probably stuff you can. Anyway, another Shinji launching 3 boss dead. Easy.
There's no need for flattery. It'll rust my soul.
And that's one of the cases where Throne Hunter is, like, the Throne Hunter Swiss Army Knife is really useful, because that's a fight where I need a baiting orb, but I don't need armor corrosive. If I had 3 characters with step ahead, that's an unnecessary action I don't need to take. Like, I would need to, like, defend with that character. Whereas in this case, it's literally just... Well, in this case, it's if I need 2 actions, I can just not use Latent with Throne. If I need 3 actions, I can use Latent with Throne. Which is a little neat. One of those little optimizations that I kind of like. And as an added bonus, Throne gets to be a cat girl? I don't think that's completely correct, but whatever her hunter outfit is supposed to be. Anyway, here's the start of the quest. I talked to Veronica here, who was Agnia's Chapter 3 boss. Sorry, Agnia's Chapter 4 boss. Agnia's Chapter 3 didn't even have a boss. And this is another time where at this point, Spurning Ribbon is just saving me more and more time. Like, oh my god, no encounters. It's a miracle. Also, if you remember, from way back at the start of the run, this is the area I started the run. Also, I'm completing Throne's final chapter at this point, and timing-wise, this is a little weird, because ideally you might want to do it later, because there's an item that I have to steal here that has a pretty bad... If I wait for later, I can have it a higher chance. But by doing it now, not only can I start the quest that I need for the Bodyguard's Vantage, I also am able to swap Throne out of the party by beating her story, and that'll let me kind of do some more convenient routing later. I've kind of just yapped about routing for a while, because at this point, I've defeated Galdera, the story bosses are kind of nothing at this point. Also, speaking of forbidden elixirs, that's a forbidden... I just stole another one. And I just realized I haven't even talked about what forbidden elixirs done, despite having already used one. So what forbidden elixirs do is they give you a full BP refill and a full SP refill, though that's not really as useful in this run. But they set your HP to 1. So how I used them in the first phase of Galdera to basically set Cassie's HP to 1 to activate Alpione's Amulet and have her hit extremely hard. So that combo of Alpione's Amulet and Forbidden Elixirs will be used on quite a few fights. Basically all of the super bosses plus one more boss. Or a better description would be every boss that has over 200,000 health in this run will be defeated with that combo.
You're my...
Also, yeah, for...
Prepare
I'll
yourself.
just mention. So this
As
boss,
swift as a
I actually equipped Step Ahead on Nia beforehand,
What a pity.
and the reason for that is I need critical skill.
I got you now.
Because I mentioned speed being the ancient crit
fight
stat,
for what she
and,
do good.
this boss is super
There's
fast.
no need for flattery.
Crazy fast.
It'll rust my soul.
Yeah, I guess it's fitting, being the Thief's final boss, that he's really fast, but yeah. Because he's really fast, I gotta use critical scope. If I had the Bodyguard's Vantage at this point, I think I'd be able to crit him with a critical scope. I might not be able to, I might be a little short. But it wouldn't be feasible to get it at this point anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now this is the second part of Agnia and Hikari's crosspath. And conveniently, in Coog, there's quite a few nuts I can grab. I've already grabbed a few of them, but there's another one here. I entreated an extra olive. I didn't need that. I just forgot and just entreated it. Doesn't really matter, but whatever. Also, this is what I need to do to complete the quest. Also, I'm also entreating an elemental augmenter from that NPC there. Elemental augmenter increases my elemental attack by 100, which Casty will never use it, which is weird because she's my main magic attacker. But it will be useful, which is cool. Also, that's the info I need to complete the Bodyguard's Vantage quest. Also, make sure to not to entreat the Platinum Hatchet there, because if you do, the backup is you sell it, but if you do accidentally get the Platinum Hatchet there, it will actually screw up things later in the run, because the Platinum Hatchet actually gives speed. I accidentally entreated it once and then didn't sell it, and then I realized that a fight later just didn't work because Casty was too fast because she was holding the Platinum Hatchet, which raised her speed. Which was definitely a way to find that out. Fortunately, I wasn't actually doing a serious attempt at that point, but it was certainly something. I guess at this point I'll explain why Concoct is so powerful. So, Concoct's numbers aren't that insane, though the one thing that is notable about it is that it pierces defense the most of every skill in the game for some reason. But that in combination with, it's basically just a magic skill. It scales off of elemental attack, though there is 2 quirks of Concoct that you have to keep in mind when using it. And both I have to keep in mind in this run. Well, only one of them I have to, actively. And the one I have to actively keep in mind. So, Shiagomi, that was a Shinjuku Jigiri, just one shot. Also, there's a learned skill that I'm not getting. I do not need it. But, basically with Concoct, you need to manually switch your weapon to your elemental attack weapon before you use it. Every other magic skill will basically do that switching for you. And here I can entreat one more nut, and I can finally go, and now I'm going to do Oswald's story. Oswald is coming back, and this is his one moment that he gets. This is his, one cool moment. Because normally in speedruns, the way you deal with... So, Oswald has to mug a bunch of people in this chapter. And normally the way you would deal with that in speedruns is with hired help. But hired help has a bit of a long animation, and more importantly, it costs money, and I don't have the funds to do that. So the way I'm going to get around that is, since Oswald now has a bunch of levels because he came to Phase 1 of Galdera, I think he's level 46 right now, I'm just going to, give him a bunch of magic gear that Casty formerly had, plus the elemental augmenter, and he'll just he'll just kill him normally. So I'm giving him support skills, I'm giving him peak performance, I'm giving him deal more damage, I'm giving him full power, and I'm giving him so full power lets him get latent every fight, and Oswald's latent is basically it changes his AoE spells into single target spells and doubles their damage.
I like my odds.
And he's got peak performance now, so he hits even harder. And he only needs to deal more damage for one of these mugs. So, I think maybe it might be faster to skip deal more damage and just use a soul stone on it. But I think if you get unlucky with turn order, I think it's slower to just do. So it's just better to do damage. Also, another convenient part about the Oswald gear that I've given him is that Ochet's that icy boss I defeated dropped a weapon that increased the damage of my ice moves. So basically, I can do extra damage in my ice skills. Nice. Along with the battle-tested staff, it's a great combo for Oswald to just obliterate all these
I like
bugs.
my odds.
Of course, I'm talking about ice damage, and he's using Fireball here.
Study hard.
He's only using Fireball on the fights that wouldn't die to ice. Or the fight that would die to ice, basically. Or, like, the fights I don't need ice to kill. And this is the one fight that I would need to deal
my
with.
odds.
This has got 12,000 health.
Pierce them. Wings of frost.
And
I've seen
those are the
worse
modes. That is, in my opinion, Oswald's coolest moment in this run. He's got some other cool stuff that he does, but, like, that's the one where he does his normal thing. Oswald's main thing is blowing things up with magic, and I'm glad he gets to do it at least once in the run. That isn't even the last mug he gets to blow up with magic, so that's at least cool. I mean, Oswald does get to do neat stuff. Like, he's not just, like, outside of the magic damage. Like, he did do that cool Analyze strat with Bomb Bottle on Galdera. Like, that was really cool. At least I think it's really cool. But on this next fight, it's just gonna be, it's just gonna be standard stuff. I mean, there is, I guess, some ads I have to kill, so,
What?
find a ledge, see ya. And then, now there's the actual boss, which, since it isn't weak to sword, but since I now have a bunch of levels on Hikari, and this boss has lower than average health for final chapter boss, he just kind of
Now
dies.
it's not this
As
time.
swift as a snake. You're open.
And because I have full power, I can use Armor Corrosive and Evading Orb.
I'll end Shinjun good.
And see ya. And
I
again, the
still
reason
have much
I'm
to
using
learn.
Evading Orb is because those bosses have a, basically a trigger that tells the boss, yeah, I can't die, but the trigger would normally go away when you do when they have gotten a certain cutscene, but the trigger is stored as a buff, so I can do it with Evading Orb. There will be fights later that basically, there will be one particular fight, I guess two, that have 1 HP triggers like that, but you can't remove them. Mainly the extra battles, because they learned their lesson. I'm glad that they didn't patch Evading Orb stuff, so like speedruns still work normally, it's just the extra battles have like a 1 HP trigger that can't be removed with Evading Orb. Anyway, now I'm doing Particio and Oswald's crosspath, and here I'm swapping Temenos into the party. And the reason for this is similar to when I swapped Particio in during Egni and Hikari's crosspath, which is that Temenos is the next character I want to do the story of, and it's just more convenient to switch characters early and then switch again during the chapter than it would be to switch and then start the chapter. Also, completing the quest at this point is super convenient, as you complete the quest here, and you immediately put next to the NPC you need to turn in the stuff for the story, which is super neat. I was pretty happy when I found that one out, and if you've seen one of my old extra battles runs, you'd also see that trick. And there's the Bodyguard's Vantage. And Temenos will learn Aelfric's Blessing. He'll get in on the party too. As you saw during the Galdera fight, it's extremely strong, so I will be doing that on him too. So this chapter I gotta beat up some hired goons.
Out of my way.
So I just come on.
Next.
Hikari just uses Divine Tutelage, and there they go. I mean, I need to do it again. I don't even need nighttime. I don't even need to boost with more than 1 BP. That's how strong Hikari is
Battle
at
of
this
wits.
point.
My
Now he's got everything that he'll have. He's got every single
There's no need
offensive
for
piece of the
flattery.
gear that he'll have. Again. So Bodyguard's Vantage. Also, here's the last mug for Oswald. So, hi, Mr.
I like
Moneylender.
my odds. In pursuit of fire.
Goodbye, Mr. Moneylender. That was
I've gained valuable insight.
anyway. And now we'll be doing Temenos' story. which, as I mentioned earlier, Temenos is like the most useful character I could have, because he's, free armor corrosive. But, yeah, it's just not convenient to do his story until now. Because I just need JP and other characters, or I need to complete certain characters' stories, or whatever, so... yeah. But yeah, Throne will, of course, be coming back to the party, because I still need the Mating Orb and stuff. So I'll be swapping up Tissue and Oswald for Casti and Throne. I forgot Casti left too. Also, for whatever reason, these little dots on the ground you need to pick up for the story are just so annoying to pick up at times. Like, most of the time they go well, but like, what is that? Like, come on, really? So here I'm going to finally switch parties back, so Throne goes there, Casti goes back in the party. Also, one thing I forgot to mention. So, you might be wondering why I gave Oswald Arms Master of all the jobs I could give him. Like, he really only needs a job that gives him a sword, so he can use the Guardian's Ice Bowl. But the reason I gave him Arms Master specifically is because this game's Optimize feature is really weird. Basically, Optimize equips the quote-unquote strongest equipment for that slot on the character. But different jobs have different weights towards different secondary stats. And for whatever reason, Arms Master is the only job that has a sword and prioritizes elemental attack over HP. But specifically on Oswald. So, there I would get in, instead of getting the Royal Guards mail, I would be getting the Blessed Vestments. That's literally it. I'd be getting offensive gear instead of defensive gear on Arms Master. Well, I guess we'll put it that way, I guess. Anyway, don't even need Knight for that fight.
There's no need for flattery. It'll rest my soul.
Also, one thing you might not have noticed is that I'm not actually using the JP augmenter anymore. I just don't need the JP from it anymore. It's literally, I'm still using all my XP bonuses, but JP augmenter I do not need. It's just overkill. Also, I technically made a mistake there. I was supposed to do that little Temenos menu earlier, but it's fine. I did get punished for it, because then Temenos had to do an extra action on that fight, but I unequipped his Step Ahead, and I equipped Evil Ward. You might be thinking Evil Ward is a strange choice, because I don't get encounters, they just don't happen. So, why would I need to run away from encounters that don't happen? Well, as a slight spoiler, encounters will actually happen. There were, not story spoiler, I'm just saying, spoiler for something later in the run. But I will be unequipping my Spurning Ribbon to get it to force an encounter later, and I will have to run from that encounter. So, that's why I need Evil Ward. I imagine my odds are actually pretty good without Evil Ward, because, Hikari and Casti are pretty high level now, but I get it. I think Evil Ward makes it guaranteed, whereas not having Evil Ward would not make it guaranteed, so there's that. At least from what I can understand. Not from what I can understand, I'm just kind of guessing at this point, but I need to unequip Step Ahead anywhere, so might as well just equip Evil Ward, you know? And, this next chapter will have the final little bits of stuff that I need to pick. I'm just lying. I forgot there's more stuff after this, too. I guess there's one item off to pick up after this, anyway, but whatever. So I'm going to pick up a magic nut from this guy. And then I will pick up from this guy here. He's got a Thunderstorm Amulet, and he's also got an Ogre's Bane. So the Thunderstorm Amulet is, again, to survive that Condemning Bolt attack later in the run. But the Ogre's Bane is a sword. And you might be wondering what the heck I need a sword for. And the answer is I don't need a sword. I need money, and an Ogre's Bane sells for a pretty decent amount of money. So, yeah. He actually had another weapon that I could have also sold for money, but, like, I don't need that much money, you know? The money's pretty tight in this run, but, like, I do have, like, there is, like, backups available, such as, you know, that extra weapon, or the platinum hatchet that I mentioned accidentally entreating that one time and screwing up a fight. So, like, there is things I could get. But the money route, I think, is pretty tight. Like, if you've noticed, like, during a lot of the major purchases of the run, I've just ended up with, like, no money. I did mention Partitio's character theme was the only character theme you got to hear for a long period of time, because that was not Temenos' character theme. That is a separate theme. Called, Doubt is What I Do. Which is, I think, good track name. Anyway. This boss, because I have Temenos in the party, I get free armor corrosive, which means I can just let Shinji Monjigiri rip on the first turn and just defeat the boss instantly. It's great. Like, when I was running this, like, I would literally have, like... When I was initially, like, doing runs of this to get myself familiarized with the route...
I still have much to learn.
Weird statement, considering, you know, I literally made the route. Like, this route was made entirely by me. So, the thing about... Or basically entirely by me, but, when I was initially running this, I was thinking before these Temenos bosses, like, hey, I'm not using armor corrosive, that's a mistake, I need to add armor corrosive in, and then I remember, hey, Temenos gives you that for free. Like, this run has broken me, it seems. I forgot what Temenos did. Also, this is the last area I need to go to. Because I just haven't been here yet. I guess the last town I need to visit, at the very least. And this is, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is normally where we pick up an ancient circlet, but I already have one, so I don't need one here. But there is one item I need, which is very annoying that I need it. So, at the end of the run, Temenos needs 225 accuracy with his staff to hit a specific, to hit one of the bosses he's going to be attacking. Specifically with his basic attacks, because magic attacks can't miss. But if he was one level higher at the end of the run, he wouldn't need the Sharp Nut. But since he isn't, I need the Sharp Nut. Sometimes things just happen. Also, that NPC has a pomegranate leaf, which is one of, if not the most broken thing in the game. It's kind of funny to me that, like, BP like, medicinal concoction is, like, absurdly broken, and it sees two appearances in this run. And the first one you didn't even get to see because I got perfect turn order and didn't need it. Basically, the thing I was going to do is Cassidy can use Whimsical Leaf on herself to make... Or Cassidy can use Whimsical Leaf to make a party member's next action happen last, and I could have used that on herself during the Galdera fight, but I didn't need to, because she was already going last. Also, this area looks way better at night, and I'm glad I can just, you know, have it be night all the time without having to worry about getting increased enemy rates. I realize I haven't mentioned that, but yeah, being at night makes the spawn rate of monsters higher. But my encounter rate is 0, because I have Spurning Ribbon, so I can have it be night all the time. Which also means I don't need to, like, switch it to night immediately, right before the boss. I can just keep it night all the time. If I want, at least. Anyway, this boss is like one of the bosses where I was like, why am I not using armor corrosive here? It's because Temenos does it for free.
Prepare yours, not this
What
time.
to do?
So I just click a baiting orb and Onjigiri.
Good. There's no need for flattery. It'll rest on the sword.
And now that is the last character story done. 8 out of 8. I still need to do the Throne Temenos cross path, so that will be done now. I'll also be putting Ochette into the party, because I actually will need her. I still don't actually know if going up, like going around this town clockwise or counterclockwise is faster. I've just been doing counterclockwise because I think it's faster, but I haven't actually timed it.
Well, I think not.
Also, another thing I haven't mentioned, I've given Temenos Warrior
Very good.
for his Coerce path action. So Coerce is basically... what is the akin to Coerce? It's like Bribe. It's like Hikari's Bribe where you can get info from people, only instead of needing to pay money, he needs to, break them. He needs to break them, so deplete their shield points to 0. So, conveniently, both of the enemies that Temenos needs to provoke, or coerce, in the story, are both weak to sword, so I can use Aggressive Slash from Warrior to break them, which is nice. And also, this is Ort, and he actually has some really useful items I can steal. A Swift Shield, which is pretty good defensively and gives me extra speed, and an Imperial Armor, which is a slightly worse version of a Royal Guards Mail, which is the defensive armor I've been buying. That I bought 2 of. It has, gives a bunch of HP. And this Imperial Armor will be relevant actually very soon, and, But yeah, the reason I have Ochette in the party is, I'll be capturing a monster soon, which is also why I need Evil Ward on Temenos, because I'm capturing a monster and then I'm running away. Oh, right, I'm just remembering now. The monster capture is, probably the biggest mistake in the run. And there is probably a backup strat that I could have done and just kind of didn't think about it. Anyway, whatever. It lost me probably like 15 seconds, so shout out to that. So here, I need to, for this part of the story, I need to ambush this guy. And this part is a little awkward, because normally, this is backtracking. And normally, you would go do something else. Except, when I looked through the route, there's literally nothing else I could put here. So, you just have to do this. And just walk back. I can't believe you have to backtrack normally in a speedrun. Oh my god, it's a travesty. If you can't tell, I'm being very sarcastic. Anyway. I'm about to capture the monster. It'll be in the dungeon for this story area. At least I would be about to capture the monster if I didn't make a massive error. So the area we're about to go into is called the Cavern of the Moon and Sun. I do a menu to unequip some stuff, to equip some stuff, but I'll explain that later when I actually do it correctly. So, this dungeon has a cool gimmick where switching to day and night switches what parts of the dungeon you can see. So I switched to night to show that off, and then I realized I can't do that capture strat at night. So, yeah. Maybe don't switch it to night to show off cool things in your video. Anyway, so I'm going to do an equipment here. So I'm going to equip 3 things. So I'm going to equip the Fortune Wand on Temenos, which increases his speed. I'm going to equip Imperial Armor on Hikari, which increases his HP. And the increased HP actually will turn off his peak performance. And what that does is normally, if Hikari were to attack this frog twice, it would just die. But without peak performance, he can attack the frog twice, get it low enough to capture it, but not kill it. Which is very useful. And, in case you're wondering how I'm turning peak performance back on, this chapter just full heals you at the end of it. So, it's genuinely perfect that it worked out this way. And I'd like to give a slight shout out to Indigo now for helping me come up with that strat. I was streaming in Discord. I was in a voice call with him, and I was having trouble finding a good strat to capture that beast. I was originally using Piercing Thrust, but then I found out that Piercing Thrust is a stupid skill because the critical, it's a skill that has a percentage chance to critical hit an enemy. I thought it just always crit, but no, it has a percentage chance to crit, and the percentage chance to crit overrides the crit stat. So even though Hikari has, so much crit, it just doesn't matter. So I can miss the crit and not capture. But anyway, he suggested, wait, what if you just equipped gear? And I'm like, wait, I can equip the Imperial armor to turn off peak performance. Also, Hikari already needs the Imperial armor anyways, so it works out perfectly. It's such a little rogue thing I quite like. Anyway, that aside, I've actually started the endgame. Now I've started the real endgame, and I start off by fighting those two guys. And now I do some menuing. So Casti comes back into the party. Casti will learn all the apothecary skills to get Doter's Charity, which will be useful later. She'll learn Arcanist skills. I kind of forgot to mention I picked up that job. What am I for doing? I'm supposed to go to Richette here and learn some merchant skills to get boost start on her, and also get Peacock Strut, which is the magic attack boosting dancer skill. And then I'm also learning Arcanist skills on 3 characters. So Arcanist skills notably unlock the support skill for this run, which is, now I'm just going to equip the support skills I just picked up. So Lasting Memory is the big one, and that makes it so that any character who has Lasting Memory, in this case Particio, Oswald, and Casti, they will keep their buffs even when they die. So if I buff Casti, for example, and then she just so happens to die during a fight, and then I revive her, she'll still have her buffs. Same goes for Oswald and Particio. Anyway, here's a boss. This boss, I have to break, because I don't have the damage for the Reagan. Also, because Temenos happens to have latent Q, I can just use it. If Temenos didn't have latent Q, I could use Spirit X instead.
Who's next? For the pride of Coup.
So for this sequence, to complete it, you need to basically light the 4 flames. 2 of them are guarded by a boss, so I'm going to do those ones first, because right now I have a good boss killing party equipped. And specifically I want to do this one first, because also to light the flames you need to have 2 specific characters in your party, and this is the one that requires Temenos and Throne to do, so as you can see I already have those 2 in my party. Also I'm using some nuts here. Namely, I'm using the magic nuts on Casti, and I'm using the sharp nut on Temenos that I mentioned earlier that annoys me. The one that he'd be if he was 1 level higher, he wouldn't need. So now I'm going to the second one, and this area, for an any percent run, which just aims to do this part of the game from a new file, this part of the run can be really annoying because there's a bunch of high-level enemy encounters that you can fail running away from and lose a bunch of time. But I don't need to care about that because I don't get enemy encounters. Spurn Driven My Beloved. It's one of the reasons that this category is just my favorite category to run, because it's just, you do all the cool bosses, you got some cool strats, you don't have to deal with enemy encounters for the last hour or more of the run. It's just great. Also, there's not too much RNG, which is also fantastic. All extra battles is a great category, but you do have to deal with 30%. Thanks, Alrond. So here I'm going to use a pomegranate. This boss doesn't actually have nearly as much health as the last one.
Cleaning time.
I can just kill it unbroken. And the reason I had to use a soul stone there
There's no
is
need for
because
flattery.
sometimes, like, this is actually a range. If you're familiar with other RPGs, maybe Pokemon speedrunning, you might be familiar with, like, a damage range. But there is damage variance in this game, and on 99% of the fights in this run, like, even if you get minimum damage, you still kill. But that fight, if you get minimum damage, you don't kill without that soul stone. So the soul stone's a safety strat. Now I'm, these are the 4 characters I need to light the other 2 flames. And I will do the final selling. Give a salute to the, Guardian's Ice Blade. That thing was useful. Same with the Breaker's Blade. I used that on Galdera with Throne. But I need money. I just need money. Now I'm doing the final equips. So Cassidy is getting back her, damage dealing gear. Oswald's getting defensive gear. Throne is getting defensive gear. And the way these menus are done is set up to basically they're set up in such a way that I can use the optimize command as much as possible. Particio is getting defensive gear. Also, Ochette got the sprightly ring, so that she has the plus 20 speed, which is useful on the next fight I'll be doing. And only that fight. Every other fight, it is just not useful at all. In fact, it will be an active hindrance, and I will unequip it later in the run, but whatever. It saves my life on that one fight, so... Not really saves my life, but it's essential for the strat to work. Also, this part's kind of neat, because Particio gets to lead the party, and it just so happens to work that way for how the character swaps have to work. Character swap routing is super annoying, by the way, because you just have to basically be like, okay, so what character... Because there are things that are required for party order, which I'll explain later, I guess. But for some things that have to work the way they do, and but anyway, Particio ends up leading the party here, which is nice, because Particio, as a fun fact, for my first ever playthrough of this game, I picked Particio as my starting character, so I guess they'll call back to that. As another fun fact, on my first playthrough, my main party was Particio, Oswald, Hikari, and Casti, 3 of the 4 of which are in the party right now. The only one missing is Casti. But yeah, here I'm just lighting the 2 flames that I haven't done. Selling the items is, like, you might be wondering, what do you even need money for at this stage of the run? Like, haven't you bought everything you need to buy? And that is correct. You have forgotten about hired help, which, you know, even though hired help damage isn't really that useful at this point in the run, hired help utility is insane. Like, you've already seen beastlings for universal shield break, but there's other stuff too, which I'll get to. Including the oh no, but there's actually 2 hired helps we haven't used yet. So now it is time for the final boss of the game, or the normal final boss. Difficulty-wise, this one's a lot easier than Galdera. He's got less than half the health, and, yeah. As a result, the strategy I'm going to use on him is going to be massive overkill. But, massive overkill is the definition of a lot of the things I do in this game, so, you know what? Might as well. Also, this is, in my opinion, the best song in the game. Or it's my favorite song in the game, I'll say that. Now I'm going to put Throne and Temenos in the party, and after listening to that song for all of 10 seconds, it will be gone, and you'll never hear it again. Sad. You get replaced with the equally great boss songs for this boss, but the boss episode will not be long for this world. This is a one-turn kill. So this is Hienka, which surprisingly has not shown up yet. This is Hikari's latent, and it's one of the 3 options, and basically it's a 2-hit sword skill, and the boss is dead already. But it's a 2-hit sword skill that gives you an extra turn. Also, I used a baiting orb there to skip the phase of the boss, so that's cool. But yeah, it's 2-hit sword skill, gives you an extra action at the end of the turn, similar to how Aelfric's Blessing does, so I use it there. So here, I'm going to use a Forbidden Elixir, Ratio.
Coming at us.
I'm going to defend with Cassie, so she goes first. I'm going to have Project buff Cassie with Peak Strut. And I'm going to use the Blatant Power Springy Boots again.
Step right up.
In this case, Particio is the fastest character. Then no Chet and Cassie. If you look at the turn 3 order, that is exactly what it is. Also, I have to make sure not to full boost a Particio. Do it loses time. Mainly because I need AP on him with next turn, and he could use Blatant Power to get it, but... Anyway, I'm going to use Higher Health Thespians here, which buff Elemental Attack. Debuff, and normally the boss prevents you from using physical attacks, magic, and healing, but Concoct does not count as any of those, so I can just use that and kill the boss. And that is the final boss of the game, but obviously not the final boss of this run. That is the way now extra battles are unlocked. So I can now swap in my extra battles party. Do a little bit of job menuing. Throne needs Merchant because Hired Help is good. And Temenos needs Inventor. And one of the two ways I'll be spending... There is one more thing I'll be doing with my money that is not Hired Help. And that is hiring this Cleric. This is like the best combat summon in the game, and it's exclusive to Particio. And you'll see what it does when I actually use it. So to start the extra battles, I have to save my game and then load it up from the menu. You can only do extra battles with a save file that is completed final boss. So now it's time for the extra battles.
I shall render my judgment.
Oh, sacred light.
So here I'm going to use Thronate to
I'll take this.
Thronate Latent to refill the Latent Power and DP.
Over. Now go.
Higher Health Beastlings to personal Shield Break. Then use Springy Boots to make Thronate act first for the rest of the fight. Particio Latent fully refills his BP. Then you can use Elfric's Blessing on Casty. Then Casty can set up Doter's Charity. Doter's Charity makes any items used, in this case by Thronate, affect the entire party, or every enemy if they're an enemy targeting item. So I Forbidden Elixir to get everything.
Now go.
I don't need everyone at 1 HP, but I need BP on other people than just Casty though. So I can use an Ancient Curse Talisman. This is I found an item I have. And what this does is it debuffs every enemy's elemental defense and physical defense. And now I get Elfrix again. And now I can kill everything with Casty, and they revive at full health, and then I need to use Decaying Dragon's Essences with Thronate to break them. So, Decaying Dragon's Essences break 4 shields, and they're magic attacks, so we don't miss. So, there you go. They're a single target normally, but Doter's makes it an AoE. So then I use my second Ancient Curse Talisman to debuff here. And this is the fight. Tressa makes this awkward because Tressa can, she buffs her defense every time you break her. But yeah, that's the first fight. Second fight is going to be similar, so I won't just commentate what happened. I'll also explain something I didn't explain before. So one of the things is that with Elfric's Blessing, the turn order is fixed. As in, the bonus turns from Elfric's Blessing will always be the same order. So, the party member that is lower in the party will always go first. So in this case, Casty will go before Thronate. So here I use Doters again. Also here, Honnet can screw you over by getting a free turn. She has one chance to do it, though in this run, even if she does it, odds of her screwing up your run are very low. But it can happen.
I think not.
So I cocked, almost kill everything. Elfrix again. Here, because I don't have to go with Tressa, I can just do 1 hit, not 2. I only need 4 total hits to kill them instead of 5. I need 5 for Tressa. And then again, same issue. Dragon Essence, same thing with Dragon Essences. Normally here, Primrose, the topmost character, gains a ton of evasion for in this phase for like no reason. But just negate that. because Decaying Dragon, this is for magic. Here. And one more hit, and there they go.
I know no.
And the other two fights will very much not be like this. Also, if things go wrong in these fights, they can go wrong very fast. So, as you might have seen during the intro. So I'm going to give Patricio my last 2 Nourishing Nuts to give him more HP. Also, a mechanic during the extra battles is that any consumables you use during one of the fights, they're given back to you afterward, even if you win. So I'm just doing a bit of menuing, I'm giving Agnia Merchant higher health, and now we're doing True Vide. Some people will argue this is the hardest fight in the game, and it's almost a puzzle, because these tentacle bosses that summon explode, and they do tons of damage.
Time. Hang in there.
I appreciate it, Throne.
I got perfect turnover here. Normally I would actually use Hienka here to guarantee that I get a turn after everyone else is already gone. But since everyone else has gone for Hikari, I can just use Divine Bullet here and ship all the points. So now here's the Cleric summon. This Cleric will give 2 stacks of a buff called Divine Protection. And she does that every time you summon her. I only get 2 summons, but 2 is all I need.
As swift as a snake.
This Divine Protection will basically negate 1 instance of damage for every stack that I have. So if you can count that, I have 4 stacks of Divine Protection, and there are 4 tentacles. So I will take 0 damage from killing those tentacles.
Prepare.
Another thing is, I didn't full boost the full edge, because not only was it not needed, but also I want to full boost the next turn. So, the thing is, I'm not even out of the woods. If the boss gets a turn now, it will wipe my party with Waves of Darkness, so I have to break it. So this is where the frog I captured comes in. I can summon it 4 times with a chance for bonus. And then have Hikari use Shinju Manjigiri to break this. And then now I can buff Hikari with Lion Dance, Chishido, and then Reinforcing Jam to give me the hit. Full boost to Hienka, that almost killed the boss. I can use an Energizing Pomegranate to refill the 1 BP I need, and then see the first phase of True Vide. Yep, this is a 2-phase fight. And as you probably can tell, I don't have the Divine Protection Cleric in this phase, so I have to deal with it a bit differently. So this knocks the character at the end of the turn, sets them to 1 HP. Cassidy is actually the single best character that Tentacle can target, but every character it can't target is still winnable. Cassidy just happens to save the most time. You can also just get your friends in and play. But yeah, with Oswald's One True Magic, which breaks regardless of what it hits, and Higher Health Beastlings, I can just I can break the tentacles. Normally, Cassidy can use Whimsical Leaf to break party members that have pushed back, have their turnover pushed back later by the tentacle attack, back up. But I didn't need to do that here. I just need to buff out that defense. Concoct. So normally Cassidy would also do a Forbidden Elixir here. She's already at 1 HP, so it doesn't matter. The worst character can hit is Oswald. Like, there's still a 3. You still. Then 2-hit. You might need a 3-hit there if Cassidy hits buff, have on some orders, and Oswald just takes all 4 of these explosions like each. Thanks to Seal of Immortality and the Hang Tough passive. Hang Tough is a passive that makes you survive a lethal hit at 1 HP. But you have to be above 30% of your health for each. So if you've played Pokemon, it's a little like Sturdy, only you can activate when you're not at, and it doesn't need to be at full HP to activate, only 30%, above 30. Anyway, I can now concoct to get this.
No.
And that is my last granted, actually, fun fact. Is exact. But of course, I get all my items back after this fight, so now I have to set up for True Vide the Wicked. the fight I mentioned that has 1.8 million HP. So that's fun. Anyway, this is where I need the lightning amulet, so Thunder amulet to Throne. Ochette does not want the speed in this fight. She needs to be the slowest party member, so I need to unequip her. So Throne goes back to Merchant. Oswald becomes Dancer. He learns Stimulate, and this is where I need 4 Dancers because I need a ton of Stimulate. Temenos gets Elemental Barrage, and I need Hang Tough on Prodigio and Boost Start on Hikari. Now, this is a beautiful fight. So, there are 2 hands. One hand reflects and counters all physical. One does the same. The other does the same for magic. So that's why I have Hikari to physical damage, Casty for magic. So I need to use Wind Refrain here to act first. Then Temenos can buff Hikari.
Here you go.
Apologies,
The physical hand, Hikari doesn't quite do enough damage to kill it, so I need to use 4 Assassins to help with Throne to do attacks and heal me. Healing isn't necessary yet. Then I use a Forbidden Elixir on Casty. And this is why I need another Dancer to Peacock.
Here we go.
Then I need to defend with Partitio, shoot Jagiri to kill the hand, which combined with the 4 Assassins is enough. And then the each character who kills a hand gets locked out of the party. Gets locked out until the next phase triggers. I mean, there's a little bit more to that, but yeah. And Oswald will Lion Dance here.
Thinking time.
Wait, no, he's last. He can do the King Dragon. Here's the perfect RNG. So now I can use Higher Help 4 Assassins, which full heals me. And since I'm full healing every turn, I can just... Since I'm full... Normally I'd Stimulate here with Oswald to make Partitio first next turn, but he's already moving first. I'm getting really good turn here. But I can just use 4 Assassins again to heal. Since I'm full healing every turn, I just can survive these 2 hits on the boss every time. I use Stimulate and make Partitio go first this time. This time, I don't want to use 4 Assassins because that'll heal Cast at 1 HP, so instead I have to use Beast Links because Hikari means his normal attacks are too weak. Or sorry, his normal attacks can't miss, sorry. Ancient Curse Talisman to buff the boss. Yenka to do a bit extra damage, and now I can fully heat them to activate the performance and get more HP. Casty hits for like 350,000, good for her. And then since Throne took damage from getting countered by the boss, I heal her up. Now the boss is below half, so that triggers resummoning the hands. He'll also do an attack that sets me to 1 HP, and obviously I don't want to die, so I'm going to switch parties, because that's a mechanic in this fight. So I switch parties, and then, so now I need to break the physical, because this time the hands won't lock me out. So this time I want to break the physical one, so that the magic one can, so this casting can kill the magic one without breaking. I use AoE Springy Boots, my good old-fashioned, and I use Beastly Howl, which does 1 shield damage, and debuffs both defenses. So now I need to still heal up Throne again, give him RBP. I need to stimulate Casty here because I need someone to go after her. And that is why I have 2 dancers in this part. Because someone needs to stimulate Casty because she goes last. So in this case, Oswald can now use a King Dragon distance, which is only possible because the boss is equal. So there's an AI quirk here in this boss where when one party dies, it instantly ends the turn. So I use that to skip the boss's turns, which helps save time. This is also why this fight has 8 intentional deaths, at least. So now I can use the frog to break the boss. Also, look at the 4 actions per turn, that is just disgusting. So normally I would stimulate here if Casty was going last, but Casty isn't going last this time, so Casty can just that. Now the boss is at 1 health, and that means the final phase is coming back. Also, this fight walks out your divine skills and you gradually get them back, but this strat actually doesn't even use any divine skills, so it doesn't even matter. But that's a thing. Anyway, this is where Condemning Bolt comes in, so Ronin, Temenos, and Ignil always live here. Everyone else can die. So Chet is dead.
Chet.
So I can use the Almighty Olive, which is a full party revive and heal. Temenos can use Latent Power, Elemental Barrage. Temenos Latent makes every attack break a shield, regardless of what element it is. And Elemental Barrage hits a bunch of times. So combine them together and you get a great combo. So then Throne can break 4 more shields. Give Temenos a jam to refill the Latent, as he needs to go again. With the Elemental Barrage. And then Agnia can use Elemental Bomb Bottle to hit 8 times. Worst case scenario, the boss at 5 shields right now is still enough. And thanks to that elemental defense increasing nut I gave Hikari earlier in the run, he barely lives here. And Oswald lived thanks, and Pepagio lived thanks to the tough.
Use this.
So I Forbidden Elixir to Casti, and if you're doing some mental math, Casti isn't enough to kill. So I have to give Hikari a Revitalizing Gem.
Use this.
Much appreciated, Oswald.
Use 3 more hits of Conduct. And
My
2 boosted Yenga and 3 boosted Shinji Manjigiri is exactly enough. And just oh so fitting, Hikari is the one to deal the final blow.
There's no need for flattery.
Thank you so much for watching.